Oh, that's it. Yeah, it's one of the areas where people need to live on self-solid. They were looking after their auto going instead of called scenarios. It's still a video.
Ja, we moeten like set a text.
Mooie Nederlands kunnen we wel.
That's why it's so important for us to establish
Make sure you put a grinder on it. You look like a canvas. I didn't want to say it. Come on. Yeah, that's
Dr. Scott, the man, the myth, the legend. Thank you. Just some housekeeping. If you have questions, you want to send it right to our Twitter moderators. Use @ParamedicWiki. And if you hashtag it SmackUS, we will continue being the biggest trend in the United States.
No, you won't. We will. Everyone's attention anyway. That's great stuff. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Thank you very much. Put my mics on. Let's see how we go now. Do you remember this happening the last time? Yep. Too many things going. You know that guy? Appearing here for one night only. So they're telling me. Now, close it down and start again. Always turn your phone off when you're doing a presentation because you know somebody's going to ring you in the middle of it. As you can see. Excellent. Okay, so let's get started. Thank you all very, very much for coming this evening to the Royal College of Surgeons of Ireland. This has to be one of the best supported nights that we've had so far in the history of OBI CPC. We have 22 outlining facilitated stations happening this evening, going all over the country. Members of the Coast Guard, members of the Civil Defence, Red Cross down in Killarney, CF4 groups, just it's unbelievable what we're actually starting to achieve from these nights, and even from the Dublin Centre the numbers are increasing as well, which is really, really good. So welcome to the September 2016 OBI CPC. Tonight, if anybody from the exterior centres wants to send us a question, please do. Can you either tweet it on hashtag OBI CPC, so ask your question, and then use the hashtag OBI CPC, and we'll answer that question here. You can either then go to cpcnights@gmail.com and put your question there. From there I'll get it, and I'll also put the question to the people, the speakers who are here tonight. So again, it's the whole interaction aspect of this session that we really love to get going, and we'll use social media as much as we can, be it Facebook, be it on Twitter, or be it through email. Okay, and if anybody knows me, just ring me and ask me the question, and I'll ask it to them as well. It's simple. Growing Your Rhyme just says it, make it so simple, write it down, take a picture and send it to me or anybody else who's here and they'll ask it for you. Tonight's speakers, I'm going to put them in small writing at the moment because they are such big people. The first person to speak tonight is going to be Peter Conroy, and he's going to be the lead as such to take us going. Peter's an amazing guy, very, very good friend of mine, and a lot of people out there. And you'll get to know more about Peter in the next half an hour, 3 quarters of an hour, what he does and what his team does, especially what he's achieved internationally. One of the things that blows me away about FOMED and a lot of medical programs that happen on television is the amount of Irish accents you hear on the likes of 24 Hours to Save a Life. Any medical program you see, there's always an Irish accent somewhere in the background. Peter's one of those Irish people that just has a tendency to show up all over the world speaking or being part of a community, which in his case is the surfing community. Followed closely by another good friend of mine, Kieran. I just had to pull in all the friends for this one, you know. Kieran Henry, he was one of my inspirations in life. OBI CPC is based on inspiration. Hashtag inspired to be the best is what we call it. And the idea of that comes from Kieran, because when you look at this guy from Cork, you kind of turn around and you say, how does this guy achieve so much? You know, he's just, if you walk into CUH in Cork, everybody knows Kieran Henry. You walk anywhere in the country, everybody knows Kieran Henry. He's just one of those guys. He's like Ben Heron, who we had here a few weeks ago. Shane Powers, another one of those characters. Everybody knows him, you know, and Kieran is one of those guys as well. And then followed finally by Claire Heron. Claire is the resuscitation officer at Temple Street, a colleague of mine in another life, another hat I wear. And I had a conversation with Claire recently about what we do, and we kind of said, how can we bring that whole connection together? This is one of the things about Kieran. Kieran has the ability to bring in-hospital and pre-hospital together instead of making divisions. The EMS gathering, by the way, EMS gathering brings international pre-hospital care people from all over the world, be it from whatever level they are at, to a room to talk and share information. And that's what inspired this whole thing that we're doing tonight to come about. So Claire has that hunger to bring, especially from a pediatrics perspective, from one side to the other and bring them together. Okay? So there are 3 speakers tonight. Danny, our cameraman, also known as Brand Man, covered the international kickboxing, world kickboxing championships recently, and has a claim to fame of putting a YouTube clip up. How many hits did it get, Danny, of the young girl who ended up on Britain's Got Talent?
Overall 200 million. 200
million of a young girl doing a karate. She was on Britain's Got Talent, and she done this superb, but that's Danny. Danny managed to put her on the limelight and put her on YouTube. So he's our cameraman, he's our tweeter guy, he's our guy who puts all the technology together. For the last month, Growing Your Rhyme, everything. Everything. That's all I'm going to say. Take some more for the next one. Need I say any more? So at this stage, I'd like to ask everyone in every centre to stand on their feet, and let's take 30 seconds to recognise these 3 people. Speaker who's going to come up, so I'm just going to play this, if it will play, because it played for me 2 minutes ago. Danny, you ready? Yeah.
Hi, I'm Natalie May, and this is my PK talk about examination of pediatrics.
I know how people describe me. They describe me as mental, and I'll just honestly turn around and say, it's not craziness. I know how people describe me. They describe me as mental, and I'll just honestly turn around and say, it's not craziness. Passionate about what I do. I could not do a 9 to 5. My brain wouldn't be able to cope with it. What's normal life? What's normal life in this day and age?
So on this, these are all the trucks going. 102, 101, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 fire trucks and 1 ambulance. People's reporting.
I love going into work. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. The next shooting, stabbing, someone in the river, boat overturned, car crashes, bus crashes. In Dublin, we're firemen. We are also paramedics. You don't know what you're going to go out to. So when the bell goes off, all you know is something's wrong. Your heart starts racing, you're going, this is it. When we get there, we know what we're doing, we get it done, and we save lives. I think it is my calling, because I get to be a superhero every day. Everybody says, is money a factor? Money is a factor in everything in life. If you didn't have money, you couldn't do the things you loved. I get taxed 65% of my wage. 65% of our wages is taxed in public service. A lot of it goes to mortgage and then my bills. So usually I have about 50 quid to play with. Like when I want to go surfing on the jet ski, I'm scraping money together to put money into that ski. I'm doing it out of the love. Like I'll sacrifice, I haven't bought a new surfboard in about 5 years. Work will always get in the way. If surfing isn't your work, you're surfing out of pleasure and you're working to make money to pay for that pleasure. All next Sunday, Monday, Tuesday next week are going to be fun. Some days I have to be at work and I can't get off and I just have to suck it up. And it always kills me deep inside knowing the lads are getting barreled off their heads and getting the best waves of their lives.
Are you working?
Yeah, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are the best days up there when I'm working.
He has 2 different sides. He has his surfing and his kind of craziness, and then he's a complete different person when he's up in Dublin at work. He knows he has to do it.
Yeah? What?
Is dinner ready?
What?
She wants to cover you.
I can't hear you. Coming.
My girlfriend, she's grand. Like she has her own passions as well. We have a great understanding that she has her thing, I have my thing. I'm the chef in this house.
All you do is ask anyone that's actually coming here for dinner.
Ask him what? I always cook.
He doesn't see surfing as it can provide for like a family for the rest of his life. He knows he needs to have a job.
Help? I usually cook. She's my helper. She's my helper. If I can't get the day off and I miss an epic day, there's always another epic day. There will always be another epic day. I have to work to pay for the next epic day, so I get on with life. The barrels out there are ridiculous. Nature at its rawest. And you're just sitting there going, oh my God, this is amazing. I've always said to myself, you have to make one massive barrel out here in your lifetime. It was a horrible day. It was windy, it was big. I was just sitting in the freezing wind, fucking, and this was like, this is Ireland. My first wave caught that day, I got hammered. I got skipped down the face and thrown out with the lip, smashed. Came up seeing the stars. I was like, right, one more and I'll be done. That's when I saw a line coming through. It didn't look like a massive one, but you could see that there was a lot of power in it. And all I could think in my brain was just, don't fall off. I'm off looking at the lads going, did that just happen? I knew it was a good wave, but I never thought it was the best wave I'd ever caught. And then Rue, the photographer, comes over and goes, do you see this? And I'm like going, what's that? Who's that? He's like, that's you. And I'm like, no, it's not. And like, I got panicky because I saw the size of that lip. I was like, jeez, if that landed on me, I'd be dead. If you see a muddy lip, it's just different to everything. It's just full of volume. And it's throwing so far. If you mess up, this shit really does hit the fan. The safest place to be is inside the barrel, so you might as well enjoy the ride. But if the sea wants to kill you, it's going to do it. If you know what you're doing, I think it minimises the risks and the dangers, because the bigger you get, the more you have to be prepared.
Holy fucking shit!
If something goes wrong and you don't have someone there to back you up, you're dead, and the only person's fault it is yours that's you're dead. People are turning around and going, you're putting the rescue services' lives in danger by going out to rescue if something goes wrong. I'll turn around and say, no, we're not. We're equipped to self-rescue. The crew out there with us, the Mully crew at the moment is a tight-knit community up there. If something goes wrong, we all stick together. When someone goes down, they know exactly what needs to be done. It's like in the fire brigade. We go into burning buildings, but we're very trained to do it. We know what fire will do. Same when we go out to the sea. We know what wave the wave will break, which way you will get washed in. I would never put myself in danger that I want other people to come rescue me when I'm lying dead and on the inside. I would never. I've always thought, just leave me. Just leave me in there. I have a mortgage to pay, I have jet ski to pay off, I have everything to pay off. Surfing big waves, there's no point in getting injured, because if I get hurt, I don't have the backing to pay it off.
He likes to think he's calculated. I guess he's in his own head. To me, it seems a little crazy when it gets into the surfing, but he knows what to do in them situations, so I trust him.
My main priorities in life are my friends. You're nobody without friends.
40 seconds to take up the ticket.
When you want to go surf, you have to go with a friend, because you'll catch a wave of your life. If you're by yourself, you don't remember it. But if there's someone there hooting you on, you'll remember it and you'll have something to talk to. But I do see the need for working, and because work gives you an appreciation of what you have.
Pull on the wire, yeah?
People are turning around and they go, oh well, you're going into work and you're going to be wrecked tired. And I'm going, no way will I be wrecked tired. After surfing the best waves and getting barreled off my head, I'm running on pure adrenaline for the next 3 days. If you want to go out there and you want to surf the biggest wave you can do it. The limit is only based on what you perceive can be done.
Peter Conroy. Don't leave him with your kids. There's a collection box for his mortgage outside and we're finished and his skis and everything else.
Something a little different about them.
Okay, thank you very much, Glenn, and welcome everybody. That's just a little bit about me and how I got slingshot into the world of big wave surfing, and from that wave I got nominated to the World Big Wave Tour, basically the Billabong XXL, and I got in the top 5 biggest barrel ever surfed in the world that year. Unfortunately I didn't come first, I'd say I came second at least. But leading from that, it opened doors for me that I could pursue my passion of life-saving and saving other people and helping them out. It's quite an easy lecture I have, because I'm going to watch another video. This video was made about 7 months ago. I had a few videos made of myself about my surfing abilities, and everybody else was doing the same thing in surfing, so I decided to get together with Kevin Smith, and we made a video on the club and the people within the club, and what we're trying to change within the surfing community and water safety community.
So have a watch, and then I will go through the club in more detail.
Fractured skull, burst eardrums, broken nose, lacerations to my head, to my face, from my fins, dislocated shoulder, broken ribs, intercostal muscles torn, broken fingers, dislocated knee, broken back. My name is Peter Conroy. I've been a lifeguard, fireman, paramedic for the last 15 years. Back in 2007, when I got caught on the inside of the cliffs and basically thought my life was over, when I did actually manage to swim myself out of the situation I was in, we set up the Irish Tow Surf Rescue Club to train ourselves into saving our own lives. I feel that learning from a book is all well and good, but getting your hands dirty and going out with your friends and learning and practicing. Club is there as an idea for people to start looking after their own beaches and their own. Basically, we surf Mullaghmore, so how do we make Mullaghmore safe for ourselves? We surf the cliffs, how do we make it safe for ourselves?
It is dangerous what we do, you know, there's no question about that. So I think surf safety, I think it's fantastic, and I think it's absolutely essential.
Surfing big waves and surfing heavy slabby waves, it's kind of like an army, you know, you're only as strong as your weakest link. By having everyone out there trained up and ready helps everyone be able to push the limits more and more and more, and in the long run it'll be safer. The most recent and most dramatic injury I had was a spleen injury where I did an aerial and landed really hard on my elbow and tore my spleen. The end result was a whole heap of internal bleeding. Yeah, almost died, and luckily Peter Conroy was there to save my life.
Where are you bleeding from?
You never know if you're going to get injured, but it's, and you can't control that, but what you can control the moments afterwards, and what Pete's been doing is amazing.
One of the things you realize in medicine is that your first 15 minutes are your most significant, and if you rely on somebody to help you a half hour from now, typically you're going to be over the most critical time and miss an opportunity to save a patient when you could. Both Peter and I have worked to figure out exactly what it is you need to have on site to sort of maximally support an injured person.
The first ever rescue underneath the cliffs from a helicopter was about 4 or 5 years ago, and after that procedure we decided to go into the Coast Guard and learn their procedures. Leading from that, the skills gained helped one of our own surfers. He got in difficulty just before nightfall and got washed in underneath the cliffs. So he waited it out and waited for the Coast Guard to come with the helicopter and knew where to be and knew the procedures for a pickup at the bottom. The helicopter rescue at the base of the cliffs kicked off the rescue box being deployed at the bottom of the cliffs with rescue equipment in it and radios, so that in the future we can talk to the people at the bottom to make sure things can happen faster and more reliable. So the club main goals and achievements have been designing a surf-specific first aid course, Mullaghmore, the defibrillator put in there, the first aid kit, spotters on the cliffs of Moher when we're surfing there, having radio contact up and down has been a major lifesaver. It's time critical for a lot of places that we surf. Defibrillators we put in hotels around beaches because the hotels are 24/7, the defibrillator will be there and a medical kit, and the hotel staff will be trained up.
Qualified operators on jet skis are incredibly valuable, and as soon as something happens in the water, everybody realizes that. Surfing waves that are 2 feet, not 20 feet, or whatever size wave can kill you.
The club is there to highlight surf survival skills, so that when your friend gets in trouble beside you, you have the skills to save his life by doing something simple.
Now, moving on to that, all about the club.
So, the Irish Tow Surf Rescue Club, which I'm currently the chairman at the moment, was established roughly 10 years ago when we started surfing some of the craziest waves on the west coast of Europe, basically. A wave called Alien Nasharika, and Mullaghmore was discovered a few years later. It wasn't discovered, but it was attacked more vigorously.
this is me. This is what I do when I'm not in work. I try and find the craziest barrels, biggest waves in Ireland. Some of these are Mulletmore, Aliens, and as you can see, there's always a ski where I am, right? And the reason we have a ski at a lot of these places is because it is one of the best and resilient rescue crafts in the world. You can go places that boats can't go. It is one of the only crafts that you can actually put and stabilise a spinal patient without compromising C-spine. I know that for a fact because I broke my back and there was a ski there, and luckily it was there because I slid straight on and looked after myself basically. So in this lecture I'm just going to go through a few things. The Irish Coast Surf Rescue Club, history and the activities that we do, an overview of heavy water surf conditions in Ireland, the PWC, that's a personal watercraft, overview and preparedness, rescue techniques that we do in the ocean, and a Q&A at the end. Okay, so the Irish Coast Surf Rescue Club, this is the bad boy Aliens in Starka, if you've all heard of it. It's situated about 600-700 foot underneath the Cliffs of Moher. I don't know if you can see that there's about 7 jet skis in the water there, if you can spot them. Little black dots to the right hand side. This is the day that I actually got caught on the inside. We tow in at the outside, and when you mess up basically you get washed in, and washed into a horseshoe bay, and I was stuck in there, not able to get out with my board, not knowing what to do, and it was at that stage that I thought I was in serious trouble. We talked to the helicopters before this, and they said they couldn't get in because of the proximity to the cliffs. And when we surfed there, we surfed it on an offshore breeze, so the wind would be coming off the top of the cliffs. So I basically swam for a good 45 minutes out through the white water. And even when I got out into the rip that's in the middle, the jet skis were driving past me, looking for me. You couldn't see me in the sea swell. And what we learned from that day when we went back and sat in the pub and discussed what had happened, we realised that we really have to get our act together and learn the abilities of the skis and learn the ability of ourselves in certain situations, because we didn't have communications, we didn't know how the skis could react in white water. And from that point we set up the Tow Surf Rescue Club with a number of us pushing forward. And this was actually the first course. We brought Glenn Ovens over from England to help us train on the skis and show us the power of the ski and what you can do with it. We were actually very surprised that you can actually flip a ski over and leave it upside down for 4 or 5 minutes and then flip it back over and start it again. I learned the very hard way only 3 weeks ago when I lost my ski underneath the Cliffs of Moher. The front of it got ripped off and it got washed in under. And luckily through training that myself and some of the lads had done, we actually swam in. The ski was completely full of water and it basically started. I don't know how it started. It started, we got to drive it out, and just as we got out past the breakers, it cut out and we got to tow it back with the other ski. And luckily 2 weeks later I got my ski back in one piece. But that shows you what how versatile these machines are. From that we set up, we've roughly 50 guys trained, and women trained up on the rescue craft in rescue conditions. As you can see, a lot of the skis that we use are Yamaha VXs and FXs. They're very powerful, very manoeuvrable, and we've rescue sleds on every one of them. Every one of them have straps that hold down the compartments on the front, so that if it does get hit by white water, that it actually holds the compartments together and holds it watertight. And that's just all the lads on the first day. So heavy surf conditions in Ireland. There are a few things to talk about with that. It's cold in the winter. We average at a -6, -7 in wind chill when we're out, and it's usually snowing when we're going out in the big storms. It gets big. Some of the biggest waves in Europe have been surfed off the coast of Ireland, if not the world. And I don't say that lightly. I can guarantee you the biggest waves in the world have come in off the coast of Ireland. It's just we don't have the media and the people chasing what we do in Ireland. We go out on surf days in some of the biggest stuff and there's no videographers. It's getting better now, but back in the day it wasn't. It's dangerous, and because it's dangerous, we train. But it's really, really fun. When you get a good wave, the emotion that you go through, it just makes you want to go back for more. As I said, here are some of the spots that we surfed at. It's Aliens on the left, Aliens on the right, and then a little slabby place called Riley's, where a lot of surfers have met their, not demise, but I've broken my back there, fractured my skull. Recently, one of the lads fractured his femur and had to be helicoptered out of there. And it is because of the incidents that have happened there, we've put in place medical boxes down there, and we've trained with the Coast Guard for evacuating from there, because it's very inaccessible to the Coast Guard to get down to help us. Here's a wipeout. It is inevitable. If you can see me down the bottom there, that's me just about to get sucked over and go to my happy place, as I'd like to say. So this is the wipeout. When it happens, I like to see the wipeout. Watch the guys on the surfers and the jet ski. Straight away they react. The guy in the back is a photographer. The guy in the front is a rescue driver. What we're training up now is we train our surf photographers as rescue drivers as well, so they can react to everything that's going on. Even if the rescue driver isn't looking, the guy taking the photographs can automatically recognize when a situation needs to be dealt with. Even if the ski gets hit and the rescue driver gets knocked out, the photographer can reverse roles and become a rescue driver as well. So a lot of the guys that we're bringing out now, we're training them up to the standards that we are on the rescue jet skis. This is underneath the Cliffs of Moher. As you can see, it's very white. With white water, it's very aerated, okay? So your engine doesn't work as good. Even on a boat, if a boat goes in there, it cavitates a lot. It doesn't catch the water. You have to wait till the water solidifies together before you can get traction. And a lot of practice and hard work goes into learning how the ski reacts in that water. I've actually gone into some of the white water where you lose automatic buoyancy, so the jet ski actually will disappear underwater into white water, and you'll be sitting up to here in the water. You just have to wait for it to solidify around you. The same with life jackets. It's the same with any survival suit that the Coast Guard are wearing or anybody's wearing, that if they get caught in this situation, it's very hard to not aspirate water. Okay, so a little overview of a PWC, which is a lot of people call them jet skis. Jet ski is just a name that was given by Yamaha to the thing, so we call it a PWC for copyright. So on the front we'll always have a bow tow rope, so in case your ski breaks down, you can just take that out and hook it onto the next ski that's there. The hatch and seals on the front, the gunnel traction to get more traction, so if you need to do a sharp turn you can put your foot on the side to put extra weight on the side. Modified nose cones on the back, and rescue sleds. As you can see, the rescue sleds has last chance handles for when you're going in for a quick rescue. So learning from that, like, you've only got 6 to 7, maybe 8 seconds in between each wave to do a rescue. So when we go in to do the rescues, we're looking for a lot of things. We're looking how aerated the water is. We're looking how injured is the person that we're going up to. Are they looking at you? Are they ready? Have they given you a signal that they're going to go straight for the sled? Is their board with them, or is it gone? And from learning from these things is that the rescue techniques that we've learned, we've had to modify them over time, because we've gone into an injured person, and basically when you go into an injured person, they're not able to do anything. So we invented the body tow, and I'll go on to that later on. So a very good saying is, if you fail to prepare, you should prepare to fail. And that's what we live by in the Irish Tow Surf Rescue Club. So training and getting used to accidents that happened. And as I said, when an accident does happen for us, we don't criticize anybody. We come home, we sit down, we talk about it. We go through what went wrong. We never, as I said, when I lost my ski, luckily I had a GoPro in my mouth, so we could actually go through the whole incident and go where things went wrong and what we can make it better for the next time. Okay, so here is something going very wrong. This is many years ago up at Mullaghmore. A jet ski like that, going over the falls, is not very good. As you can see, the person, can you see that? The person being ejected over the front. Okay, so after that incident, that ski was actually retrieved, brought back out. There was 3 other skis in the water doing backup on that day, so the ski went in, rescued the guy that was driving the ski, the guy that he went in to rescue, and another surfer that was surfing on the wave afterwards that actually nearly got decapitated by the ski that was going over. Okay? So it's just incidents like these that we love to get footage of, recap, go over it, and then learn from our mistakes. This is a competition that we did in 2010, the Billabong towing comp at Mullaghmore. What we did was they were trying to make jet skis illegal in Ireland, believe it or not, because anybody could buy a ski. There was no licensing for them, so they just buy a ski and they just go crazy on the beach and come in too close, and people were getting killed off. And basically, we decided to set up the club and show the world what skis are capable of doing. So what we set up here was that the surfer and the tow-in guy had to reverse roles. So it was a tow-in team, and both people had to catch a wave and show your ability for rescuing your partner. But if you didn't fall off, you didn't have to rescue, so that was a lot of our goals, was not to fall off. But by the end of it, I think the councils realised that the skis were very capable in the right hands. It's like having a Honda Civic and a boy racer. You're not going to get rid of all the Honda Civics in Ireland, are you? So basically, we kind of won that war where they couldn't really ignore what the jet skis could do, and they couldn't eliminate us from launching from slipways and from the beaches. Even in the competitions, we learned mistakes. As you can see here, the safety guy came in a bit too close to the wave that was jacking up, and basically ended up bringing the wave down completely on the competitor that was in there. He was quickly taken off the ski and given a slap on the wrist now. But this is another thing we learned from. This is a very famous surfer from Cork, Shane O'Connor. He hadn't surfed a wave before. He was in the competition, and we'd all surfed it a few times before. He asked us, what do we do? And I said, right, when you get to the first boil, that'd be the first boil. You go up below it or above it to be safe. And things came to pass that he got one of the biggest waves of the day and basically kind of spazzed out. That's me standing with my hand on my head, understanding what's about to happen. He's looking up, realising what's about to happen. Luckily, he made it in underneath and into the barrel, which is one of the safest places to wipe out. If he had got that lip on the head, that is a lot of tonnage of water that'll force him into maybe 8 foot of water that's underneath him there. Luckily, we were doing safety in between competing, and we had 2 rescue skis either side. So we had him out of the water within 20 seconds, cross-eyed, not competing again. He basically did compete again. He went back on the ski and did rescue dive, but he would not surf another wave after that. After that, he sold his jet ski. So you either like it or you don't. And as I said, a headspace, a man who was not afraid of the sea will soon be drowned. He said he will be going out on a day he shouldn't, but we do be afraid of the sea, and we do only be drowned now and again. I like that saying a lot, because fishermen are very like that. You have to be afraid of what you're going out to. If you don't be afraid and you don't prepare for what you're going into, bad things happen. Preparing for big waves. So what we try to practice is your surf and swim ability, going out and just going that bit more above your ability, like bigger waves. Don't go out and surf a 20-foot wave when all you've ever surfed is a 2-foot wave. So I'm trying. Swim in treacherous conditions. Like what we're trying to do is train up rescue swimmers now. So when we're out practice on the jet skis, we'll have rescue swimmers beside us, So the skis will keep an eye on the rescue swimmers when they're going out, and the bigger it gets, the more skis will go in the water. Stepping stones, as I said, go out and learn what it's like in 2 foot waves swimming, then 4 foot, then 6 foot. Don't jump. Okay, prepare for whatever situation. In my head, it's very bad because I went to college and did a 4-year degree on disaster management and emergency planning. So I walk into a room or I go down to the cliffs, I'm like continuously risk assessing everything, which a lot of paramedics and a lot of people do, but a lot of surfers don't. They're very lone gun. They've gone out there to surf by themselves, screw the consequences. But what we're doing is actually changing that, the way surfers are looking at it at the moment, which is a very good thing. Learn life-saving skills, BLS, CPR. When you're in the ocean, the simplest things save lives. Rescue breaths, 5 rescue breaths. The minute you take a drowning person out of the water, 5 rescue breaths. It's not a cardiac problem, it's a respiratory problem. Okay? Swim and surf a lot. If you want to be a good rescue swimmer, you do a lot of swimming. If you want to be a good surfer, you need to get out there and get into the water. Know your equipment. Jet skis, there's an engine in them. You have to become a mechanic. Okay? You have to know what goes on. If the engine stops, is it a battery, is it an alternator, is it a starter motor? There's a lot of things you have to go through. And especially like a paramedic or a doctor, when you're on the ambulance, you have to know your equipment, you have to know where it is. When the proverbial shit hits the fan, you need to get things quickly, okay? Know when to say no and when stuff is above your ability. We do this a lot in river rescue or in surf rescue. I won't go in and sacrifice the rescue craft for a person that's in flat in the water, because you're putting yourself in danger. And the most important person in a rescue is who? Yourself. And who's next? Your team. Okay? So do it for yourself and not for anybody else. Don't listen to peer pressure. Go get them. You'll have other surfers trying to make you go in and do something. If you're not up to the job, or if you're not trained, or if you're not able for it, don't do it. And make sure you enjoy doing what you do. Okay? I really, really enjoy doing jet ski rescue. I'll actually sacrifice a whole surf session at the cliffs just to do rescues. And that's what it takes. Like, I'll be the only one doing rescue, the rest will be surfing. I still haven't converted them to doing that. So, and know your abilities and of those around you. This came to light with me once or twice, especially when I broke my back. What happened was I got sucked over with the lip and landed face first on the reef. I broke my nose, and then I was squashed into a ball and my L1 snapped. It took maybe 4 to 5 minutes for me to get out of the white water, and then when we got out, I got onto the back of the ski and we drove out. And it was only at that stage when blood was coming down my face and I was kind of giggling because I was in a lot of pain, and that's what I do. And I looked at the lads, and there's 5 of them around me going, "What do we do, Peter?" Because I was the paramedic, I had medical training. They were asking me what to do, and that's what happens. And from that day I was like, right lads, come on, we'll do a bit of training. And it's basically when you're out there, it's like, right, I've done a BLS course with him, he's cardiac, he's a surfer, he's a surf instructor, he's trained up to certain standards. And even when we bring lads out, I'll bring them out in, like Dave Ainsworth, we bring him out in the jet ski now, he's a paramedic, so I'm not the only paramedic. We have doctors that come out with us now that want to surf, that want to learn what we do. And it's great just to know your ability, okay? New ideas and equipment. This is basically just a, if anyone can recognize their life jackets from airplanes. I was lucky that the guy that rents a room off me, he's a pilot, and these were all being thrown out. They were just redundant. So we basically took them and modified them for inflatable vests for underneath our wetsuits. So when you get injured, or if you're being held down too long, you can pull it and it'll inflate underneath your wetsuit and bring you up. And if you're injured, it's great because you can inflate it. If you have a broken arm or a broken leg, that you'll actually be above the water. We brought this in because there is inflatable vests out there for the professionals, but you can't buy them. Or if they are to be bought, they're €500-600 to buy. But cheap and cheerful does the exact same thing and the exact same mechanics to as the other ones.
But you're not recommending we rob these off the planes?
No.
Just get that clarified.
No. These were all out of date. Yeah. So we do a lot of training with the Coast Guard. We go in and we meet them. We did this because there was an incident at the cliffs, and I mentioned that in the thing, and we had surfers giving out about the Coast Guard, and I actually went to the lads and said, "What are you giving out about?" And he goes, "Oh well, he didn't know what he was doing," and they winched him up vertically with a broken back, and we knew all this. And I said, "All right, come on in. We'll discuss it with them, and we'll see what their side of the story is." The guys giving out never bothered coming in, but we did go in with 20 to 25 lads, and we sat down and we discussed. And I knew that they couldn't do it, a basket rescue from the water. So we just basically went through what procedures they do when they come and if they ever have to come and help us in the water. And what we've learned is if we can get them onto the shore, we'll get them onto the shore because we can do a basket rescue from there. But if they are injured and in the water and we have a ski, we can actually get the ski and bring them on the sled back to the slipway. The other picture there is a hotel in Spanish Point, the Armada Hotel. So the Armada Hotel, the Bell Bridge, the Lifeguard Centre in Whitestrand, and the hotel in Mullockmore, Pierhead. Well, initiative we took 2 years ago, we started doing fundraisers in local towns, and we fundraised for defibrillators for local hotels right beside beaches that will accommodate the surfers, and not only the surfers, the local community. So basically when we put the defibs in, we also train up the community and the local staff in the hotel to use the gear. And we also put a medical kit in there as well for in the grab bag. So basically if someone's on the beach, that the lads can go up and grab the bag and bring it down. Because as we know, lifeguarding services ended 2 weeks ago, and for 9 months of the year is nothing. So we put these in just as a precaution and this is also up in Mullockmore, training up some of the regular surfers that surf up there, and some of the hotel staff as well. Another initiative was when our friend got caught underneath the cliffs. He couldn't. Am I okay for time still? Yeah, good. He couldn't get out. He basically got stuck there. The swell got so big that he couldn't swim out. I got the phone call on my birthday. I was just about to have a drink, and basically the phone call I got, and I never ever want to get it again, was Mark's clothes are in a pile at the bottom of the cliffs and he hasn't come back from the surf. And I know the cliffs very well, and it's a horseshoe, and on the high tide you cannot get out of there, you're trapped. And basically I rang Martoni, one of the lads in the Coast Guard said, "Martoni, send everything you can to the cliffs and I'm going straight there." So me and Martoni got up there straight away, and we had discussed with the Coast Guard what would happen and what needed to be done, where we need to be if we got caught on the bottom. And luckily I grabbed the biggest light that Martoni had, and I ran down to the cliffs and I shone it off the top, and luckily 700 foot down I could see him waving his board. Right, pitch black, all I could see was waving his board. I didn't know he was injured, I didn't know anything else, I just knew he was alive. So I turned to Martoni and said, "Listen, calm down everything, the only way we're getting him out of here is by helicopter." And I've never seen, and my hat's off to the guys from Sligo that came down. They went in and they picked him up from the bottom of the cliffs, and one of the best rescues I've ever seen in my life, with an offshore breeze. I did talk to the pilot later on, and he said his eyes were closed for most of it, so, he said he wouldn't be doing it again. But after that, we just came up with an idea that if you weren't injured, luckily Mark wasn't injured in any way, he was just in there, he could not get out. He tried swimming twice and he just couldn't get through the white water. So basically we set up the rescue box that we left it out under the cliff. There's a picture. So we basically decided what would we need if we ever got stuck in there at night. So we got survival suits, we got clothing from Patagonia, we got flares, we got medical kit, we got sleeping bags, fins, and all the safety equipment that needed to be used underneath there. And we trained everybody up that surfed that area in the use of it. And that's a picture of it there on the right hand side. Unfortunately, that rescue box no longer exists because that was 2 years ago. We put the box in 100 foot above the high tide mark. Right? Just let that sink in, right? 100 foot above the high tide mark. And one storm took it away. Right? It took 9 months for it to happen. And I used to go down every 2 weeks and make sure that we take pictures and assess like where it is, where, okay, that's grand. I'm watching even on the high tides with the biggest storms and nothing ever touched it. I came back after Gertrude, or I don't know, whatever named it was, and basically in the place of that box was, I'd say, 100-ton boulder. I don't know where it came from, because I went back through all the pictures. I don't know how it got there, alright? So basically, when it went missing, we, in fairness, the Coast Guard and all the Doolin Rescue and everybody was out looking for it. We were hoping that it got washed down and it'd get washed into Doolin and we'd get our gear back, because there was about €1,000 worth of equipment there. All we found was a little piece of it in Doolin. Okay, within 2 weeks, we were donated another box from Pelly Ireland, and all equipment was donated again, and we had the box back out there. Okay, leading from that box, this little medical box went down again, donated by Pelly, and the medical equipment that is in it was put in by the Irish Tow Surf Rescue Club, and that's gone into Riley's, where one of the lads fractured it. Well, where I've opened back, where everybody has injured themselves. So in this, there's medication and there's bandages and steri strips and everything. The difference is this is a smaller kit, is because this is open to the public. People are walking down around here. It could be robbed, and it's open to everybody. But we're just, if it's robbed, we'll replace it. The rescue box underneath the Cliffs of Moher, that actually is inaccessible to anybody. Just surfers washed in can access it. Okay. Communication, as I said, we're striving a lot now with communications. At the top of the cliffs, down to the guy in the jet ski, it's saving so many lives. I can't even imagine what we were doing before that. Even talking to the guy about boards getting rescued, or boards getting washed in, or the surfer getting washed in. When you're down on a jet ski, you can't see over 8 foot of white water. Whereas the guy on the top, he's the eagle eyes. He is basically controlling what's going on down there. Okay, so the PW rescue techniques. Okay, so that was a one-man pickup. Okay, one-man pickup. Basically, you're a rescue driver. You go in, person's in the water, be it he conscious, hand up. Either you basically grab him and you pull him onto the back, or basically you 5 minutes. Right. Basically, you present the edge, and there's a lot of training that goes into presenting the edge, the sled. So he can just grab the sled. He'll say clear, and then basically you're gone. Because remember, you've only got 6 to 7 seconds in between waves to get him, okay? And you've only got 20 seconds before he's in on the rocks. So there's a bit of a time critical situations there. Two-man pickup, you'll see these in waves like Mullockmore, you'd have it, or Chopes. Is basically where there's a rescuer on the back, a lifeguard on the back end. As he goes in, he can grab the guy and pull him on. If you're going straight into another, like a lagoon. Two-man spinal, so as I said, is one of the only crafts designed that you can actually, if the person has a spinal injury, you can have them back, stabilize them. Once you've got them out of the danger area, I'll stress that in a while, stabilize them. All you have to do is put a bit of weight on the back of the sled, and the sled will actually submerge. You slide them straight on, take the weight off, and basically you can mount them and then stabilize them with your arms in between their heads, and you can bring them to shore. Once you're at shore on a slipway, you can actually detach the whole sled and use it as a spinal board, take it out of the water. Okay? Unconscious casualties. With an unconscious casualty or a very injured casualty, we will use I'll bring it down, the body drag. We invented this because in a lot of the PWC rescue techniques, it's all about, oh, you've loads of time, we'll stop here, we'll put this here, you can pull him up, or if he's injured, you can do this. You do not have this time when you're going into white water. You've only got the 6 or 7 seconds. So if the person isn't looking at you straight, right, if he's acting weird, you're going straight in beside him, okay? There was this famous, the girl surfer that drowned in Nazaré. Did you see the video of that? Right? What happened there was that the ski driver didn't get to her quick enough. Right? She had just taken a 40-foot wave full onto the head, washed all the way in. He should have been beside her, here, looking at her in the eyes going, are you okay? Grabbing her. If she's not capable of talking back to him, all basically you just Diesel therapy, you get her out of the danger zone. Same with the helicopter, the winchman. In the water and in the whitewater, it's our danger area. We can't treat anybody in that area, and we don't want to jeopardize ourselves. We need to get them out of there. So even if they have a broken leg, broken back, anything, we do not start treating them or stabilizing them until we are safe in a safe working area. Okay? And searching for casualty in whitewater. A lot of the searching in the whitewater is done by communications now. The guy on top of the cliff will be looking down and telling you where to go, left, right. And just learning in surf and learning the hydrology of waves, that you can actually predict where a person is going to come up as well. Up left is a one-man pickup, and the one on the right is a two-man pickup team. And this, basically, if you just listen to this is a bodyboard rescue. So as you can see, there's loads of skis sitting around, and if you ever see this at Mullaghmore, the cliffs, so that's a bodyboarder, and he just got smashed, basically. So the guy that towed him in, Dylan, he's his rescue, right? But what happens straight away, I see he needs backup. So I'm going in behind him. So I'm throwing the guy off, and this is what happens, we're always backing up each other. So the first guy goes in, there's another guy always following him, just in case. And behind that there's all the guys. So you'll hear, I'll just turn it up. Listen to the engine in the whitewater. Very important. And it becomes more apparent when after I pick him up. Remember, I've only got 7, 8 seconds. I have to wait for the water to solidify. Now listen to the engine. And you see Dylan behind me there. I'm going nowhere. That's the engine just going no. And I'm looking behind going. And it's only by calming down and learning the ability of the ski and listening to the engine, the ski engine, in those conditions that you actually learn how to save lives. And that goes on for a bit. Okay, and just as to reiterate what we've done, we've put 5 defibrillators in 5 locations. At the moment, the club is paying for all the fuel for the ski rescue ski at the Cliffs of Moher and at Mullaghmore. So it's basically incentivizing people to bring their skis as a rescue craft out there, just in case something goes wrong. Because when something does go wrong, we don't want to be calling the Coast Guard or anybody else. We want to be able to deal with it ourselves. We do free training days on the jet skis and medical and rescue training. Local swimmers, local rescue swimmers. This is a new chapter that we're actually opening up because the lifeguard service ends 2 weeks ago. For 9 months of the year on the coast, there's no one to do the rescues in whitewater. Okay, there isn't. There's no one capable to go out except the surfers. And what we're doing now in Lahinch, and we're kicking it off, is basically we're going to equip the room on the lifeguard centre with a key code, and all the local surfers and surf instructors that are all beach lifeguard qualified will be on a caller. So if something goes wrong, the guys that know what to do will be the first ones out there. And the caller will go out at the club that we have a ski, will back them up. Basically, we get a ski there, but a ski to get in the water will take 10-15 minutes, whereas a swimmer that's capable to do the job will be out there straight away. Rescue medical box. These rescue medical boxes they'll start appearing all around the west coast and the east coast where surfers surf, because you have to trek to get a lot of to get to a lot of remote areas. So these medical boxes will save lives, and even education will save lives. Any questions?
So, I suppose at this point, I'd like to say thank Peter for a great presentation. Some of you may have found that useful. I think for me, it's what you take from these presentations when you go back to your own organisation, your own group, your own communities. Peter has come tonight from the community of the surfing. We have a lot of people involved from the Coast Guard looking in this evening, from surf clubs internationally looking in this evening as well. So it's all these ideas what this community has gone and done to deal with incidents in their area and around the world is a credit to them. So I have to say fair play. So a couple of questions. Any questions from the audience here before I go to?
Yeah, I was just wondering, you're talking about the wave and the shape of the wave.
Yeah.
And where you enter the water,
Yeah.
where do you get spat out in different places?
Well, yeah.
Or do you always go down?
Just one second.
I mean,
Do you get spat out from different places, or do you always go down? Of course. Alright. So basically we're talking about hydrology. So like in a river rescue is very predictable, and so is surfing in big waves and in the ocean. You can predict where the rip is, you can predict where the shallowest part of the wave is, and yes, you can predict where the person's going to come up if you see where they go down. So we learn as surfers, when we get into a bar, we learn how to fall off and fall off properly, so we can penetrate water and get deeper into the ocean, as I say. But if you go soft and you don't penetrate the water, you get sucked over with the lip, and that's when accidents happen, or that's when major injury will happen. All right. Anybody else?
You just talked about the types of injuries that you've sustained, like while surfing. Is it due to the fact of the weight of the water crashing down on you, or is it mechanical stuff crashing into you? Like, or is it
So are your injuries that you've sustained to do with the weight of the water coming down, or you're just a bad surfer? No, you'd be very surprised. The bigger the wave you surf, the less injury you get, because we're more controlled and we know what we're doing, and there's more water around us when we go down. If we're in the wrong spot, the wave will decimate you. But a lot of injury is caused by penetrating the water and hitting the reef. A lot of my injuries are hitting the reef, hitting the rocks. I have a very good understanding with the rocks now. Basically, I won't hurt them if they don't hurt me. It's working so far anyway. Penetrating injuries as well from your surfboard as well, from fins and from the nose of the board. So that'd be it. Good. I'm just going to switch to Twitter for a second. Here we go. You just want to use that microphone for a second. So well done, Peter, on a prompt recognition of Ben Player's spleen. And Ben Player's spleen's incident was viewed earlier on in the Red Bull video we showed at the start last year. Early activation of VMS saved his life. Came in from Mud Monkey, Matt Oid. There's also Dr. Keith Kennedy, who's a friend of the show, so to speak, asked...
Can I just say on Ben's injury? Ben's injury was a quite serious injury. He'd injured himself 3 hours previous, and he went down to Riley's, which is inaccessible. It's a 45-minute walk in. And basically, I wasn't even there. I was looking at a different spot. I got the phone call going, Ben's collapsed. And basically, what do we do? And I asked simple questions, and this is what I always preach, is simple questions. What colour is he? How is he acting? Right? Simple questions like that make me think, could this be life-threatening injury? And straight away, he's very pale. He's complaining of an injury here. He felt a tear. And straight away, I got off the phone. I didn't wait till I went to see him. I rang a helicopter straight away. And by the time I got there, the helicopter was flying over us. We had him up in the helicopter within 15-20 minutes, and he was in hospital within another 5. He had a type 3 tear of the spleen. He was on the way out, and if we hadn't called straight away, he would have died. But as I preach to everybody, it's the simple things that save lives.
So Dr. Keith Kennedy has tweeted in and asked a question of, have you linked up with any doctors of the same mindset as such from the surfing, and is there a surfing doctor community being set up within social media to kind of come together if we go to different countries and stuff?
Yes, very, very much so. There's the Surfing Doctors of Europe that I work personally with, and other logos on my presentation there. We go to Portugal every year, to just outside Lisbon, and basically we invite surfers over for the week, and basically we train the doctors up in surfing. They're surfers anyway because they want to learn this new skill, surf medicine and life-saving skills, how to put an injured person on a board, how to do CPR on a beach. And it's very interesting to take a doctor out of their surgical room and their ER, their comfort zone, and put them in, say, right, there's a rip, go rescue the person. And to watch them go hell for leather straight into the rip, and then get caught in the rip. And that's what we're trying to teach, is learning about the rips and learning about all different things that is it safe to go in there. Safety for you first. And by the 3rd or 4th day they're getting it, but it's very about self in surf.
So hello from Canada. Hello from Tel Aviv. Keane O'Brien is over in Tel Aviv at the moment. He's tuning in to say hello as well. And up to Dundalk there, where Mark Toner is running a class with similar to Tel Aviv, I believe. Do they use or consider a throw bag to tow surfers while on the jet ski?
Throw bags, no, because we use a very thick, very visible rope to tow the surfer in, because what happens a lot of the used to happen a lot of the time, we used to use the water skiing ones that do float a bit, but what you reckon happens when you drive over the rope? Get sucked straight up into the impeller and stops your engine. And we've lost, I won't say many skis, but we've lost a few skis just by that. You go in to pick the person up and it basically sucks up. But the ropes we use at the moment are very thick, they're very visible, and basically we train a lot not to run over the rope. Yeah.
Okay, so in relation to spinal injuries and extrication, is the primary cause of life over limb, or are you attempting any kind of stabilisation once out of immediate danger?
I think I answered that with once we're in white water, once we're in a dangerous situation, we get them, we don't care what injury they have, we need to get them out of that situation. Because if we don't get them first time, they're going to be washed in on the rocks, and then the ski's no good. So we get them out, we get them, the body drag is basically, you grab, it's not even pretty, grab them, you accelerate, and basically their body goes in line with the ski, and you hold them tight against it, and you drive them straight out into the big rip at the side, or a safe working area. The minute we get them there, we start stabilisation.
So I suppose it links into Dublin Fire Brigade number 5, Fingless crew are watching in as well for a bit of CPC training there with their station officer Colin Murphy. What in water basics are primary ABCs, how in rough conditions? So what are the primary ABCs you're practicing as a surf rescue?
As a surf rescue, what we preach is, if it is a drowning case, and a lot of the time aspirated water, if you go in and the person is face down in the water, our main priority is 5 breaths. 5 rescue breaths, straight away. As we all know, a drowning isn't a cardiac problem, it is a respiratory problem, okay? So by giving those 5 breaths, you're reversing the problem, okay? And that's what we practice a lot of the times, and that's it, ABC straight away.
Excellent stuff. I'm just going to go through. If I get any more questions, then I'll let you know later on.
Cool.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to call to the stage now my next victim.
My name is Kieran, and I'm part of the team involved in organising this year's EMS gathering. This is Kieran, a colleague of mine as well, and he's going to be helping out. We just like to give you an overview of what's going to be happening in Kildare. 15th of May at the EMS gathering. We have a really extensive programme lined up. We have some top class speakers coming from USA, USA, UK, and also here in Ireland. In the afternoons, we're going to have a suite of options available to people. We're going to have a simulation workshop showing 3D projection simulation here for the first time. We're going to have a social media workshop where you can enhance your medical education. We're also going to have a research workshop where you can display your latest findings. We're going to have an ECG workshop over the 2 days as well for people to take part in. Or perhaps you want to go into Killarney's Great Outdoors and take part in one of our novel Learning with Leisure sessions. We have many options here, including heading up to see the beautiful Tork waterfall and learning all about be a little bit more exciting than that. Or perhaps for the more challenging climber among you, head up to the beautiful Mangerton Mountain and hear all about retrieval in austere environments. We have 2 options for those into biking, cycling. We have a 50k road cycle taking part in the roads around Kerry. Or we also have a 25-kilometre trail cycle taking part in the beautiful National Park. For the first time this year, we're delighted that we have a motorcycle tour taking part as our Learning with Leisure session, and Kieran will obviously be on that. Perhaps you just want to sit back and relax and take a seat on the sepsis bus, which will be heading out towards the capital in the road direction and hearing all about sepsis from a top expert. Or you might want to take a trip on the beautiful lakes of Killarney and hop on a boat and hear all about the latest in education and teaching concepts. So we really have lots to offer There's lots more on the programme as well. We have an early morning jog in the park, we have a journaling club taking place, and we're going to have a gala dinner that night where you can come along and dance the night away with a band. And of course, our special guest that night will be the ambulance service pipe band, who will be playing and drumming that night for us. So we're really looking forward to it. One other thing that we have on the programme as well is we have a CBRN workshop taking place in Killarney Racecourse on a Wednesday evening. They're going to be telling us all about, leading experts telling us all about how to deal with a white powder incident. And that's going to take place there, and hopefully we'll all learn loads there. So we're going to learn loads, we're going to have fun, it's really going to be good. So for more information, we'd like you to log on to our website, which is www.emsgathering.com. Come down to Killarney and enjoy it, and we'll have some fun. We'll be there, will you?
Kieran Minahan, he's a nurse down in COH in Cork, and he's exactly what he is in the video there. Brilliant. OBI CPC Nights is a big fan of not YouTube at the moment. A big fan of the EMS gathering, and we promote it as much as we can, because myself and Grania and other people involved in OBI CPC Nights have been there the last couple of years and see the value and identify what Ireland as a community is doing for EMS, and the speakers and the people they bring, the likes of Kieran and his colleagues, bring to Killarney is huge. And if you haven't been there, I really mean if for, let's just say it happens again soon, like this year, next year, that you would try and book and get down there, because it's a really, really good trip. So I'll hand you over now to Kieran instead of because you have to break in the computer here, I think. Okay, so it should be in there now.
Good on together. Sorry, no.
Okay, awesome.
Grand. Thanks very much, Glenn, and feel a little bit of an inferior complex here. I didn't know that video was being played, and Peter's fantastic video jumping barrel whales off Mullochmore and then right back throwing washing powder on myself. But then I really remembered it from Cork, so I don't know. So anyway, great to be here, and thanks very much for inviting me along, and reciprocal congratulations to Glenn, Grania and all the team for organising fantastic nights here. It's really great to see. So I'm going to talk about patient handover, and I suppose it's something that I'm interested in, and part of the bigger picture maybe to do with communication overall and things like human factors and CRM and stuff like that. So and patient handover is obviously a small but important element of the whole patient journey, and it's maybe a point we haven't got a lot of focus on overall. Like, you don't hear too many kind of training programs on it, or much emphasis on it, or people talking about it, or anything like that. But it is an important element, and why should we be talking about it? Because we just do it, don't we? And you know, we've always done it, patient handover, and it's just the same the way we do it. But the actual evidence out there is that it's not being done very well at all. And if we're to look at evidence, you know, and there's lots of stuff out there, but just one particular research paper that I looked at, where they looked at 2,500 sentinel events where there was a clinical error, and they looked at those and they found out that 70% of those had a communications failure. 70%. That's a massive figure to, you know, where a communications breakdown. And so they look at handover. And the thing about handover is that every one of you, every one of us who respond, who are practitioners, who are professionals, volunteers or whatever, we're involved in...
Stand there and speak into them.
No, we're involved in handover. Every case, whether we're taking a handover or giving a handover, and it's that on every single... besides maybe patient assessment, that they're the only things that we really should be focusing on it. And what they found is that it was highly variable and like potentially unreliable. Now, we all think we do great handovers, obviously, but the evidence is there that they're not really that good, or there could be improvement. And what they looked at, the elements that they looked at were things like the organisational factors, behavioural, cultural and environmental factors, and they were some of the areas that they said that we can look at and maybe improve on. And they've done a lot of work, and the World Health Organization, the WHO, the actual WHO, are very much focusing in on this, and they want to look at areas where we can improve. And one of the things that they said was a consistency between providers, those who are giving handover and those who are taking handover. Now, I don't have any evidence from the Irish setup here, published evidence, but what I do is have anecdotes, and you know, and I'm sure if I was to ask all of you about handover in cases and miscommunication and things like that, we could all be here for the night telling those. And like, I just recall one that I was told about lately, where a farmer had, you know, was the message that got through that he was going into the hospital and that he'd been hit in the head by a bucket, and you know that they kind of wanted a team ready and all this, you know, and the team inside were kind of saying, hang on a second, you've been hit by a bucket, it couldn't be that serious, he couldn't have a whole lot wrong with him. But when he arrived in the hospital and there was more facts, it was actually the bucket of an excavator, and you know, and like, it's while it's you know, and we, you know, it is a bit humorous and all that, like, but that was a communications breakdown. That was a communications failure. Ultimately, you know, could that possibly have, you know, a poor clinical outcome or things like that? But they're the things that are happening a lot amongst us, and they're the things that we maybe kind of need to clear up and tidy up and look at, and that's what we're aiming for, amongst others. So I suppose from one big yellow machine to another yellow machine that we're all maybe familiar with, and it's not an ambulance, but can't really talk about human factors or, you know, teamwork or communication without, you know, referring to people like those who work in Formula 1 or the aviation industry or the nuclear energy people who, you know, who are really skilled at these human factors, communications and things like that. And the reason that they became so good and skilled at all of this is because they had lots of errors. There was, you know, if you look back in aviation history, you know, the amount of aviation errors that had occurred, and a lot of them were back to human factors, miscommunications. And, you know, we can learn lots from this. And, you know, these people, and, you know, and there is an argument to kind of say, hang on a second, you know, we're all working in stressful environments, you know, or you know, with lots of people. This group here, I think there's 18 in that image there, and there's just one people. It's a multi-million or billion-pound-dollar industry, you know, but we still can take elements from it, like, and there's things there, and the teamwork here is superb. The reason that they can take off 4 wheels, put on 4 wheels, refuel this vehicle and maybe give some refreshment to the driver in about 4.1 seconds or whatever it is for a number of reasons. It's because they've broken down each task here. Everybody knows what each other's role is. They practice, and they afterwards they debrief about it, and they go through and they practice. And we can take, and Peter even, you know, he sort of mentioned elements that, you know, they went back afterwards and they looked at why things didn't work, and they can have multi-role. The cameraman can become a rescuer, and they're the kind of elements that we can bring into us. It's not always about financial investment or things like that, and that's what we want to do. We want to bring those elements into healthcare for ourselves and bring in a structured approach if we can. And so a number of people have come together, and within this country it's great to see that. So the emergency medicine program, who are responsible really for all the emergency departments within the country, and people then group stakeholders like the Pre-Hospital Emergency Care Council, Dublin Fire Brigade, National Ambulance Service, and those have come together, and they've looked and they said the way we will do this is that we will come up with a structured process for this. And there's other structured ones that they use, like, you know, in other jurisdictions like SBAR and different things like that. But the one that they've looked at is I Missed AMBO, and there's a I suppose a training program element being run out, and it's coming from the emergency department side, and it's coming from the pre-hospital side, and it's something that we need to embrace and we bring along. And again, a lot of you and a lot of us are doing this all the time anyway, and it's maybe to just kind of sharpen up on it and reflect, or is this what I'm doing? But for those who are not, it's a structured approach to it. And the whole idea is obviously that we both speak the same languages, that when you go into the emergency department, that the people there, the staff receiving you there, are expecting an IMIST AMBO handover, and that you are now giving an IMIST AMBO handover, and it should make life easier for everybody. And again, in my own practice, and I'm learning all the time and trying to improve on my handovers and looking at them. And what I've kind of seen, or you know, even just before the whole identification, I kind of ask now, I say, will I give the handover now, or, you know, are we ready for the handover? And that's one of the things, and I think even just beginning acknowledge, because what I did before, like maybe many of you, is, you know, I was kind of going in half giving it and looking at somebody and, you know, giving in, somebody else would walk in and stuff like that. But it's actually a structured piece that we need now to give. Will I now give the handover? And sometimes people will say, just wait for a second, or, you know, put the patient over, or they'll look for somebody else to come. And, you know, just even, you know, and there are small elements again in this that we can take again from others, like, but like identification, like if you know, like identifying yourself and even having markings on for your clinical level, and that's the kind of good thing in itself actually. And, I get an opportunity at the moment, the role I'm in, to go around to different, arrive in different emergency departments, and sometimes there's, you know, it's hard to identify the staff. If you're in an area that you're going to regularly, you recognise people, but sometimes I don't know who I'm talking to ultimately. And, you know, identifiers are a thing, and I saw in one emergency department recently where they had a laminated version up of all the colours and of what people were wearing. And again, go back to aviation and all that, and things like an element like aircraft carriers, you will see everybody will have certain coloured tabards out on the deck, and you know who the refueler is, you know the person who's signalling in the aircraft, and because everybody knows, because with noise factors and all that, communication is there, and that's what it's all about. You see it in hospitals, you see it in certain emergency departments, team leaders and all that. And like, I want to emphasise that there's a lot of good stuff happening out there already, and really good handovers being given. But this again will just make it that structured process. So, and again, just some of my own learnings, I suppose, over time, is that, you know, just for each one of those, I think on my handovers in the previous, I've been talking too much, and I talk a lot, maybe, and that as well. And actually, just on that, I presume everybody can hear me and understand me as well. And that's an element as well. You know, sometimes there can be language barriers or understanding of people, and you know, we've people from different backgrounds, and that's a thing to understand as well. And you know, I think, you know, sometimes we give a lot of information. And if I go back to the point where I'm even taking a handover off somebody, you know, so it's a first responder or somebody in some situation in the community, and they're telling me loads of information, and I find it hard to take everything in. Whereas if I just got, you know, the key points, so sometimes I go in, you know, and I'm giving a handover and I'm saying, you know, I had chest pain, they phoned the doctor and he didn't come, and then they went down to the co-op and they rang, you know, so this person's chest pain since 8 a.m. And that's that element. So I think, for me anyway, what I've been trying to do is trim away the excess, and giving that opportunity then for those people receiving, that information back. And in the IMIST AMBO then there is that break for questions, and things like allergies and medications, and background history, and some of this you will have written down obviously as well, and you know, on your PCR, your patient care report, and that as well. And actually there's one other thing that always reminds me of the medications, and PCR, I'm a bit of a dinosaur as well in some ways, and I remember like this, it'll take a while for this all to come in, I think, you know, and it's but it will gradually get there. Like I remember pre-PCR, it was PRF actually, patient report form, and then pre-PRF, well, there was nothing, and we didn't have anything to write on. And I remember at the time it was a glove, or you kind of gave something to win, and they were introducing these patient things that we had to write on, like, and some of us were obviously enthusiastic. It was change for other people, you know, big change, and we big A4. I don't know if anybody else remembers these, but there was trauma surgical one, and then there was a medical one, and you know, we're filling it in, and it's just a side story, but that's alright. But anyway, I just remember, you know, one of my colleagues and I was looking at them afterwards, and this was a time we couldn't really do anything or give anything. Ultimately, it was you know, no aspirin or glucagon or any of these mad stuff, you know, and one of the things anyway, the only thing we could give was oxygen, believe it or not. And I remember looking at one of the other guys' PRFs at the time, it wasn't, you know, and like the thing was, we loved to kind of, you know, give him the drugs, like we're giving oxygen, like so it was drug in one column, it was oxygen, and then it was kind of time, 12:05, dose, 10 litres, and then route, Old Mallow Road. I was kind of, I don't know if that communications failure, or was it just a bit of like, but, you know, and just to say, I have extreme respect and admiration for all my colleagues. Anyway, where was I? Something here. So that's it. That's the I'm Istanbul that's happening around the place, and then. So eventually it should work in practice, and you know the practitioner comes in and the receiving nurse or whoever in the emergency department, and they all live happily ever after, and it's written down and it's there, and it's a structured approach to that. And I think, you know, it's something, as I say, just take a little bit of time, and I've seen some really good stuff being done, and it's just working together as a team. It's a small enough country, and just to actually, you know, we see it again going around to different departments. I've had the opportunity to work. Sligo is getting a good mention tonight, and I've seen Mullaghmore and all that maybe from a higher level, and it's fantastic what Peter does. But Sligo Emergency Department, fantastic. Like they do a lot of teamwork training together as well. So a big shout out to Sligo and lots of other departments. Everybody is like working under tremendous pressures and stresses and things like that. But it's great to see good work being done. So like. This is the thing that is coming in from you know, this the structured part of it that is there, that is set out for us to do. And then it's kind of up to, you know, it'll take individuals and it'll take people like yourselves to come along and, like, you know, like I believe in reflective practice and just kind of seeing how I'm doing things, and I try to reflect on the way I do things and try to improve on myself as well. And like it'll take individuals and it'll take all of us, you know, to do things. Those hands are going mad as well there. So, but and like the other thing that I want to do as well, like or what I do. So like you have your training, and then you know you go out and do whatever you do, but to reflect back on that then and see how am I doing. And the other thing like observing, like an observational learning is really good, I think, as well. What I kind of think is to observe somebody else doing it, you know, and I suppose like they're kind of moving there, so I just so you know, this is it's a copycat, obviously. So I'm a bit of a copycat sometimes there, and like I kind of like to, you know, if I see somebody doing something well, I'm gonna do it, like, and you know, and that's an attribute. Or, you know, and so I think I'd encourage people to observe others the way they're doing it, and if you like the way they're doing it, you know, do it that way. And if you don't like the way they're doing it, maybe not. And the other thing as well, just remember, people are observing you as well. So people are looking at you. You know, you wouldn't think it, but people do look at you and see how you do things. And like obviously you want to raise that bar and do it as well as you can. And you're all, you know, leadership, and you know, I don't know, people talk about leadership and inspiration and the likes of Glenn and his team and others, and what Peter set up, like, and like you can all be leaders. Everyone can be a leader. I don't believe that you need to wear rank markings or anything like that. We can all be leaders, and like, you know, there's lots of people coming through, and you know, over the years, you know, everybody has to learn, and like for you to show somebody else how to do something, or for you to do your best, and for others to observe, is how I think we will, you know. And again, handover is just a little element, you know, there's lots of other stuff like the CPR, pit crew stuff as well. I meant to mention that in the One Life project and all that, but that's it. So the messages, the take home messages that I would have, you know, and again, just from the element of I'm Istanbul and being aware of it, and maybe just being clear, being concise, you know, those small bits, and practicing is the thing. And then just the other, reflecting on your practice, and just maybe how did I do there, could I have done better? And then I think, you know, the thing is observing and be aware that others are observing you, and that's kind of where I'm actually. Can I do one last sorry, if that's all right. Because like it's yeah, so just it's a kind of one that I got a kick out of as well actually years ago. So so it's a hospital anyway, years and years ago, kind of in the good old days, and it was a night shift when they were on, and the sister or the night sister was there. And the whole lot, they took a great handover, and she was very competent, had been there for years and all that, and the staff nurse and students, they're all around and really good and all that. And they said, you know, we're going to do the medication round first, we're going to get that done and do it, and you know, we're going to do a really good job and get that done and sorted. So she's in the middle of the corridor like this with her drugs trolley and the whole lot, and they're coming back and forth, and the staff nurses and the students are coming back and forth, and they're going, she's saying, give such and such to the man in room 6 and give such and such to the man in room 4. This is a long time ago, before yogurt or anything like that, like for giving meds. And so a student nurse came up and she said, and the person in charge said, and I wanted to go to room 11, the man who was on his own, and give him his suppository. So she lifted up the 2 and she said, will I give him, and she had 2, and she said, will I give him his, and she had a generic and a trade one in, and she said, look, they're both the same. She said 6 of one and half dozen of the other. So a certain time passed, and student nurse returned a little bit blushed, and she said, I have 9 of them given, but I can't get the other 3. She said, well, you said 6 of one and half a dozen. So that is completely made up by me. Colleagues here who are absolutely fantastic. Really good. But just so thanks again for having me, and I wish you best of luck with all your handovers in the future.
So, anyone any questions for Kieran? Any questions in the room? From in the room, can I just get hands up who are EMTs with a voluntary service? Hands up who has done a handover to a member of either National Ambulance Service or Dublin Fire Brigade in their role as an EMT in voluntary service. And hands up how many of you use the I missed AMBO acronym while doing that handover. And how was it received well? So just you're in my Aisha.
Yeah, it's a mix really, and the same in the emergency departments. Some will take it and some won't.
Yeah, and we're finding that as well. I mean, from our nursing colleagues that are here as well, it's a huge changeover from everything that pre-hospital is done. We're a very, very young group of professionals. 2005 since the APs were set up. Started licensing in 2001, I think it was. So from a pre-hospital care perspective, paramedic and EMT, so on, hospitals are really still getting to know us because the institutions have been there for so long, and nowadays time is so busy. What fascinates me at the moment is there's a good few medical programs on television where you see the guys coming and doing a handover. The so many hours, it's 24 hours to save a life, all those programs. You see these great handovers and everybody's listening and they're all wearing tabards, and then you go into work the following day all injected full of enthusiasm, and then you try and do that and it goes out the window. Right? But trust me, it is getting better, and I will say that it is getting better, and it will get better as well. So just stick with it, because if we fail at this level of implementing Istanbul, then the whole thing will fall apart. So as a group, we need to keep it going and just stick with it. Is that okay? So,
Glenn, I do a lot of teaching for the Order Malta, and only recently I've done a talk with them for the Istanbul to, tell them that this is coming down the line. And like that, when I bring out students with me on the ambulance, I try to promote it very much. Because it is the way to go,
So, because people mightn't hear that, Christy, if you don't mind. So Christy's involved with the National Ambulance Service and has been a senior man with the organisation for a long time now, and has been to every old CPC night from the start. Many years service have you got, Christy?
Nearly 30 years service.
30 years service, and he's up here every single night. And like that, he is exactly what Phone Med is about. He's passing on the information that he has, the knowledge that he has, and he's sharing with everybody else. So it's a great to Christy. So Christy's saying on behalf, when he does his training with the Order of Malta, he's now pushing that on Istanbul on them as well. So it's excellent. Thanks, Christy.
Yeah, and just to emphasise again, I don't think like it's a massive change, to be honest with you. It's like probably what we were kind of doing all along to an extent, but just that little bit structured so that we're all in the same hymn sheet, for want of a better word, like, you know. And I just have this vision of, you know, the emergency medicine people, you know, tunnelling through here, and like pre-hospital tunnelling through here, and it's kind of a bit all over the place, but it will get there eventually, and it'll be just one of those things we just do, you know.
So there's no questions in from the centres, so that's what you'd like to hear now, I suppose. So for those of you with small bladders, we'll take about 10 minutes if that's possible. We'll have you back for 1:45. Is that okay? And we'll kick off then for the second half of the show. So I'm just going to play a short video for our people around the country. Thank you.
And you have to do it again. What's the story, Ollie? You want to finish? Just getting ready for the You won't go far in this group with food racing.
again now, thank you very much. So Garrett, you're now telling me I'm late on Twitter. Daisy, I'm so sorry we're late. Jack Kelly, I'm really sorry I'm late. Okay, Andy McFarlane just came in there, and Andy's involved in the Northern Ireland Ambulance Service. Is Kieran still here? Kieran? Any problems identifying team leaders in resus by ambulance staff? Has anyone had an experience identifying a team leader on arrival with a trauma into resus? Yeah. Two.
I'd always say that if they're standing at the head of the patient or the head of the trolley, they're the team leader and they just direct to them. Now they mightn't be, but they're the one who's going to be giving the handover if they're not, obviously.
Who asks? So I found my experience is let's not just, and Kieran has kind of said, let's not anticipate who's who, actually ask, and it's such a professional approach to walk in and go, my name is Glenn Ellis, I'm an advanced paramedic, team leader please. And you'll find someone like either push forward or someone who will step forward. or generally you'll find the most senior nurse will stand there looking at the team leader and go, it's him. I hope that answers that one for you. I understand we're going for pre-hospital side of ED. Stephen Kemmy, who is hosting up there in Donegal, very good. Brian Jackman down in Wexford. Huge comeback from everybody, which is really, really good. I think one of the tweets from me, there's always a great one. Wexford Civil Defence came together with Wexford Order of Malta, and I think that's the one, I'm not sure, and forgive me if it is, that Brian Jackman's hosting. So you have HSE, National Ambulance Service, and you've got Civil Defence, and you've got Order of Malta coming together in one room to view this tonight, and that's the whole ethos of OBI CPC nights. It doesn't matter what uniform you wear, it doesn't matter what organisation you're from, it doesn't matter what community you're from. If you come and listen and you take a small piece of information from these nights, it's worked really, really well. So before I hand over to my next examiner, or my next speaker, should I speak? I'm going to give you a small clip from Natalie May. Now, those of you who follow FOMED and social media and critical care smack would know Natalie. She's excellent. She's working with a friend of ours, Sinead Lebrainon, down in the, Sinead was in the Air Ambulance, New South Wales Ambulance Service. Or sorry, Sydney Hems, and Natalie was working with her, so I'm not too sure what the situation is down there at the moment, but Natalie is an excellent, an advocate of FOMED. I'm just going to play a little video she's done from SMAC this year for the examination of a paediatric patient.
This is my PK talk about examination of paediatric patients. I tend to examine children slightly differently according to how old they are, so I will talk through examination of various age groups and give you some general tips, but here's a rough guide to what I'm talking about when I say babies, toddlers, school-aged children, and older children who I'm going to call teenagers, even though some of them are maybe slightly younger than that. So the biggest tip I can give you in approaching children for examination is to be confident, show no fear and know your enemy. Know what you're up against and what to expect for different age groups, because that can help you to be reactive and to tailor your responses to them if they become upset. Most children aren't going to bite you. Those that do either haven't got enough teeth to do any real damage or need a psychiatric assessment, in which case your job's easy, just refer them for assessment by the adolescent mental health team. Most children are perfectly nice and are helpfully pre-programmed to respond positively towards you if you give them the right cues, so there's nothing to be afraid of. So let's talk about babies. The key feature of babies is that they're small and squashy, and the most important thing is not to drop them, because this tends to go down badly with their parents. When it comes to assessing them, the most useful test you can do is what I call the cuddle test. So while you're taking a history from mum or dad, take the baby from them and give them a nice cuddle. Most babies will snuggle nicely like you can see in the picture, and that'll make you feel a bit warm and fluffy inside. Just beware those babies who are floppy or who hold themselves stiffly and make it difficult for you to cuddle them, because that can suggest there's something untoward going on. This is all about an assessment of the baby's tone, which is sometimes documented as handling well, and this can be a useful component in your assessment of the presence or absence of disease. Generally, babies don't really care who you are or what you want, so it's relatively straightforward to assess them. When it comes to examining them, lay them flat on the bed and strip them off completely. Just be aware that babies can get cold pretty quickly, and remember that from 4 months of age, a baby may be able to roll from his back onto his front, and from 6 months from front to back, so don't put them too close to the edge of the bed, or you might get an unpleasant surprise. I generally examine babies from head to toe, so start with the fontanelle, then listen to the heart and lungs, have a feel of the abdomen, assess the femorals, particularly in newborn babies, and have a good look for any hernias. Make sure you look underneath the nappy, and then turn the baby over so you've looked at both front and back. And you can then get the baby dressed again, and if you want extra bonus points with mum and dad, if the nappy's dirty, make sure you put a clean one on before getting the baby dressed. Toddlers are probably the most difficult age group to examine. This is because they develop something called stranger anxiety, which means that they know that they don't recognise you, they don't know who you are, and therefore they perceive you to be a threat. The way to get around this is to use mum or dad to your advantage. Generally, if the child looks even the slightest bit like they're going to cry, sit them straight on mum or dad's knee and examine them from there. You can completely ignore them while you take a history, avoid eye contact with them in particular, and maybe offer them a toy while you're talking to the parents. You might be able to examine the toy or examine mum or dad first to reduce their anxiety, but if all else fails, know how you're going to examine them so you can get through the examination quickly and minimise the amount of time that they're upset for. Get mum or dad to strip the child off down to their skin and ask them to hold an upset toddler in this position in the first instance so that you can listen to the chest first, because those subtle chest signs are going to be 100 times more difficult to hear once the child is screaming their head off. They'll generally start crying during the earlier parts of examination and get more and more upset as you go on. So start with the chest, then the heart and abdomen. When it comes to examining the ears and throat, there are particular positions you can use to make things a bit easier. For ears, get the child to sit sideways across mum or dad's knee. Get that near side arm into the parent's armpit and get the parent to bring the same arm around to pin that child's other arm against their side in a firm hug position. The parent can then use their other arm to hold the child's head against their chest to prevent sudden movements. And when it comes to throats, get them to sit with their back up against mum or dad's chest, get the parent to bring one arm around to pin both arms by their sides and use the other arm to hold their forehead. Sometimes you might actually need to move mum or dad's arms for them. If you're lucky, the child might be cooperative like my godson here and open his mouth to give you a good look at his tonsils. Opening wide like a lion is a useful phrase, but if not, you can wiggle the tongue depressor gently between their teeth to get it far enough back for a gag reflex, which will give you a good view. It's not pleasant, but it's really important, particularly in febrile children. This is the part of the examination most likely to make them cry, so distract them immediately afterwards with a toy or with the tongue depressor itself. School-aged children are a bit of a mixed bunch. There's considerable variation in the age at which they decide they're not afraid of you anymore. Generally, 2 to 5-year-olds will still be a bit wary of you. They might shake hands with you at the start of the conversation, and that's often a good marker of how they're going to be for the rest of the consultation. They might be able to tell you who they've brought with them, and this can help you avoid the sticky, "Is this Dad? No, I'm Grandma" situation we've all got ourselves into occasionally. They might take deep breaths on instruction, certainly from around the age of 4 onwards. You can try it with younger children, but they're quite often not able to do it. 5 to 10-year-olds are generally less anxious. They'll often shake hands with you, and I consider it good practice to give the child an opportunity to give the history in the first instance, or at least to start it off. And they're generally compliant with the examination and will do the things you ask them to do. A good rule is to let the child lead the interaction, so ask permission to see their tummy or to listen to their chest. Ask them which ear they want you to look in first. If they say no, explain why. You need to do it to help them to get better. I suggest that you look at mummy or daddy first, show them the otoscope, describe it as a tickle in their ear so they're not afraid, and then give them lots of praise. Really encourage them, tell them they've been clever or brave, and give them a sticker at the end. All that positive feedback will really help. Explain what you're going to do at every stage as well to reduce their anxiety. By and large, examining teenagers is not so problematic because they're a lot more like adults. My big tip is to be professional. Don't try to be too funny or clever with them. Treat them like an adult, and you should strongly consider seeing them with a chaperone but away from family members for at least part of the consultation, especially for older teenagers. Direct your questions and your plan of action to the patient and ask before you do anything whether they're happy for you to talk to them with whoever's come with them or if they'd rather that person waited outside. Be aware that if you do need to have a chaperone, they usually prefer it to be a non-family member, so use a member of nursing staff as you would for an adult. Most teenagers are perfectly able to consent to examination. Discuss with them what they want and respect their wishes, but be careful not to promise to keep secrets on their behalf. There are some considerations we need to make when we see children because we all have a duty to be aware of child protection issues. Be aware of the hallmarks of non-accidental injury and neglect. Be suspicious when you see injuries in non-mobile children. Examine from head to toe any child with an injury, particularly pre-verbal children who aren't giving the history themselves. And remember to think about the interaction you're seeing between child and parents and whether that seems appropriate. And if you have any concerns, you have a duty to act on them. So in summary, children really aren't that scary. You just need to be confident, to be systematic, to be reactive and respond to how the child is responding to you, and use the help available to you, whether that's mum or dad or nursing staff. I hope that's been useful to you. Thanks for listening, and hopefully I will see you at SMAC.
Very good. Now, I wanted to show you one thing because I just thought it was the most unbelievable thing a non-medical person produced for me recently. Right? She calls it the Doc Mac stuff in. Right? A lady who's in this room went into the shops and she bought.
Good morning, Sophie and Ellie. Thanks very much for coming in this morning. I'm Elaine, as you know, and I think is this Alex.
So she went into a shop and she bought a Doc Mac stuffing bag and she put in it kids' medications, kids' plasters, and anything to do with kids. Now I want you to imagine the last paediatric case you went into and what you were carrying in your hand when you went through that door. And I suspect it was the large green or blue bag about this size, or a backpack on your bag, and then you wondered why the child was afraid of you. Now imagine walking in and producing this and the reaction you would get. I think it's absolutely unbelievable, and it's a great piece of kit. And I know another hat I wear, we're starting to use them now for events and stuff. So bear it in mind, guys, right? She hasn't trademarked it just yet, so try and get in before she does. But she has like little plasters for princess plasters, and she's got superhero plasters, and it's just so kid friendly. It's absolutely brilliant, and it's the simplest thing you'd ever think of. So in the foam med community, we like to share these things. So thanks, Sophie. She's sitting just there. So our next speaker tonight is Claire Ahern, who's resuscitation officer with Temple Street Hospital. Am I correct to say that?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody, just from a registration perspective, while Claire's getting set up, any video? From a registration perspective, where's your if any of you have your slips, your Eventbrite slips, please give them to me, and I'll take that as your registration. For those of you who don't, I'm just, Grania's not here, so I'm useless. And normally she gives the signing sheets to somebody else, and she forgot to do that tonight, so it's Grania's fault. So I'm just going to put some piece of paper on the top of this, the stalls, and sign in. If you haven't given me a sheet of paper, just sign in the sheet of paper before you leave for your registration for your points. Is that okay? Great stuff. Claire Ahern, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks a million for staying to hear me. The stage, there's some really good speakers on before me, and it's really nice actually to see such a diversity between actually the three speakers tonight. So it's a really nice mixed bag. So my name is Claire Ahern, and I'm a resource officer in Temple Street Children's Hospital. I'm not sure, I obviously realise most of you are pre-hospital workers, so I'm not sure if you're familiar with the role of a resuscitation officer, or if you heard of the job before. So I'll just explain very, very quickly. So first and foremost, I'm a member of the emergency team in Temple Street. So if there's a cardiac arrest, respiratory arrest, or a critical event within the hospital, there's 13 of us on the team, and we're activated by the police system, and we go there and we take over care. The second kind of large component of the job as well is in training and education, so be heavily involved in that. And that's training and education of all grades of hospital staff. So it is from the administrative staff up to consultant level, anyone, nurses, doctors, okay? And again, it's basic life support right up to advanced life support, simulation training, all sorts of different workshops, all right? Another part of the job then is auditing, which is always lots of fun, isn't it? So not my favourite part of the job, I have to say, but it's a really important step as well, because we have to know that the way we are doing things, that we're doing them correctly, okay? So that involves a lot of going back on critical events, finding out what we did well, because that's just as important as what might need to be improved on. And then whatever needs to be improved on, thinking of what kind of creative systems or what interesting systems can we put in place to improve on what we're doing. Alright, so that's in a nutshell what the job is. Prior to that, I was a staff nurse in the emergency department in Temple Street as well. So it's a really busy paediatric ED. One of the busiest in Europe. We have an annual attendance of about between 50 and 55,000 per annum. So it's quite a busy environment to work on, but certainly really challenging and very, very interesting. So what I'm here to talk to you tonight, obviously, is managing paediatric emergencies, all right? This is a huge, broad term, and this is a course within itself, okay? But peds really differ from the adult population. I'll go into kind of systematically how they differ, but in general, they just present us with unique challenges. As pre-hospital providers, I'm sure that they don't represent a large component of what you would deal with in your workload, you know. So it is kind of the smaller percentage maybe of what you would see, and therefore that kind of creates challenges as well, doesn't it? Because there's the certain, maybe you don't see a lot of the arrests or respiratory arrests or cardiac arrests, because we don't see as many of them in peds as we do in adults. So when they do occur, they can just, they can elicit a lot of different kind of stresses and anxieties, emotional ones, and there's the challenge of the equipment, okay? And peds are difficult to assess, as you can see from my 3 kids there, the baby in the middle, they just don't like people at them. They don't want to be listened to. Even these, they have the jock mixed up and stuff, but she's still not having, but they just don't like being examined, they don't like being handled. Again, they can be quite nervous and frightful, so you have to just kind of tread a little bit carefully and just sometimes think a little bit carefully and think creatively, like Sophie was doing about the bag and the equipment in there. Really, really good creative ideas of how you can kind of minimise the stresses. So the aims of my talk this evening, so I want to just kind of, again, talk about the challenges, the unique challenges in assessing the paediatric population. And we're going to go through specific respiratory cases, okay? And we're going to talk through clinical cases. So I really want this to be interactive, so please get involved. Please shout up whatever ideas you have, whatever you think should be done or shouldn't be done, or whatever you think are wrong with the kids that we'll discuss, okay? So to make it really interactive. And we're going to discuss specific respiratory ones because we're coming into winter. And this, again, in our emergency department is our busiest time of year, because we see lots and lots of respiratory emergencies. And then we're just going to look at, because we do a couple of things differently, don't we, in the pre-hospital field and the in-hospital field. So we're going to look at kind of these specific cases, what do you guys do differently to what we do in hospital, right? And that in itself sometimes can be a problem, can't it? I know if you find it, sometimes it can be kind of, well, why did you do this, or, why aren't you doing this, or, there are differences, and I think sometimes we're maybe not that aware of what the other people are doing, and it'd be nice if we were a little bit more aware of what both agencies were doing. And that, again, as Glenn had said earlier, I'm really interested in kind of how we can merge this together a little bit. Let's not be two separate spheres kind of operation circulating around each other when we're looking after the same patient at the end of the day. So I think we should, think of how we can get a little bit more onto the same page. So differences in managing children, like I said, okay, and despite the title of my talk, Little People, Big Challenges, children are not actually just little people. They are not mini versions of adults, and they differ, quite dramatically and quite significantly. They differ anatomically, physiologically, okay, so we'll talk through some of those differences as well. Pharmacologically, okay, and that's a big challenge as well. Mils per kilo, milligrams per kilo, mics per kilo. It can be really, really challenging to work out all that. Emotional responses, again, okay, trying to get accurate histories, that can be really, really challenging. They're not able to articulate what's going on with them or what's happening to them at that time. And equipment differences, okay, really, really important as well. And that's one of the key things in the emergency department. If you get a call ahead that something is coming in, we'll always be so, what is the age of the child, what's the age? We really, really need that information, because the age, we are going to estimate their weight, we're going to, draw up specific drug doses, we're going to get out specific equipment, so it really is key, that information is so important to get across us. I'm not sure if you, you agree with this. This was a study done actually just earlier in this year with pre-hospital providers and simulation training. But this guy Manish et al. And his researchers, they found that many pre-hospital providers feel uncomfortable managing paediatric emergencies, and again, because we don't see them as frequently as what we would see in the adult population. So the paediatric arrest is quite different to the adult arrest, and it involves, again, constantly rethinking of dosages, what's different, there's no standard kind of anything, everything is age and weight specific. So differences in the airway we'll talk about, because everything, we just love systematic approaches in emergency or resus or anything like that. It just works so well. And if you put everything in a system, you'll ask the right questions and you'll think kind of very clearly. So differences in the paediatric airway versus the adult airway. So first and foremost, it's a lot smaller and it's a lot narrower. And your pediatric airway is very, very vulnerable. Like I said, we don't see a huge amount of cardiac arrest in comparison to the adult ones. Children are a clean population. They don't smoke, they don't drink, they don't have they haven't had a chance to kind of do a lot of lifestyle damages to their hearts, but they have very, very vulnerable airways. Okay, and the younger the child, the more vulnerable the airway. So think in infancy as well, they have a relatively large occiput. So if you are lying them down in the back of the ambulance, that occiput automatically kind of flexes the head forward, and there, straight away, you have an obtunded airway. So simple manoeuvres are so key. So a simple jaw thrust, a simple head tilt chin lift can be really, really effective. And I can't overemphasize that. And it's something I'm always saying, just think in basic terms. Don't jump to the advanced stuff immediately that, that we have to do this, we have to get an airway in. Just do simple manoeuvres first of all. Children under 1, keep them neutral. So eyes looking directly at the ceiling, because they've got little short, narrow tracheas. Alright, children over 1, tilt them back, what we call the sniffing position, a little bit more tilted. And again, I can't tell you how simple and effective these measures are. Speaking of the airways being smaller and narrower, they're funnel shaped, so they differ from adults in that way. The adult will have a cylindrical shaped airway. The infant child will be funnel shaped, and the narrowest part that you get to will be below the vocal cords at the cricoid ring. Okay, and that will be quite narrow. So for those of you who are, involved with advanced airway management, it's something to bear in mind as well. Let me think what else. The kids under 1, so your infants, they are obligatory nasal breathers, so they won't be breathing through their mouths. They will breathe with their nose, these tiny little nostrils. And this kid has a little head cold, and he's coughing, and he's a lot of secretions, and a lot of mucus. Those tiny little air passages can block off quite fast. So again, simple manoeuvres. Suction, clear the secretions. Simplicity is key. I can't overemphasize it again as much. And kind of their muscles, okay, that support the airway as well, aren't quite as developed as they would be in adults. So differences of breathing. So the younger the child, again, kind of the more challenging and the more vulnerable the airway and breathing system is. So the lungs are mature at birth, and infants rely mainly on diaphragmatic breathing, and muscles are more prone to fatigue. Okay. So again, the muscles that will aid breathing, they will tire quicker. They won't have the same durability as the adults will. They have a younger, or they have a greater metabolic rate. They require a greater oxygen consumption, lower lung volumes, and a limited reserve again of oxygen. All right. So your child or your infant can become hypoxic quite fast, a lot faster than an adult will. Okay. So again, just kind of emphasising airway and breathing are the vulnerable, sides of pediatrics working with peds. Differences in circulation. So the circulating volume in children is about 70 to 80 mils per kilo, which is higher than in an adult. But the actual volumes are small. So small amounts of blood loss are critical, and they can be critical. So your child that is hypovolemic, abdominal injury or something like that, or if they lose a lot of blood, they will become hypovolemic quite fast. Blood pressure, in pediatrics, it's important as part of your circulatory assessment, but they will compensate and they will maintain their blood pressure. Okay, they will become tachycardic. They will have a delayed cap refill. They will have a poor pulse volume. When they are in compensated shock. But once that blood pressure starts to drop, it's a pre-arrest sign, and you really need to act fast. Okay, so compensatory mechanisms, tachycardia, the poor pulse volume, delayed cap refill. But once that blood pressure starts to drop, you're going into hypotensive shock, and it's a pre-arrest sign. So again, going to go into airway and breathing assessments. All right. So we look at the airway. We look at the patency. Is it patent? Is it non-patent? We look at the breathing assessment. So I know you guys have been looking at some of your CPGs, and you kind of work off this triangle, isn't it? The pediatric triangle. So there's the work of breathing. There is the help me out. The what? Appearance and circulation to skin. Okay. So we're going to focus on the work of breathing, and I'm just going to show you kind of how we assess it in pediatrics, what we specifically do. We just delve in a little bit more to it. Okay. So first of all, your airway assessing patency. Okay, we all know how to assess airway patency. If you go in and the child is screaming on the mom's lap, you know that the airway is patent. Okay. If the child is not breathing, you know the airway is not patent, and you know to start assisted ventilation. There's a very grey area in between, isn't there? It's very simple if it's one or the other, but it's really challenging when it's patent. But I'm not 100% happy with it. So ask yourself, it's patent, but is it maintainable? All right? And if it's not maintainable, you need to think of what you need to do to maintain it. Again, simple measures start with first, so the jaw thrust, suction, oxygen, okay? And then absolutely work your way up, but just try with your basics first. Your breathing, so we go on the effort, the efficacy, and the effects of breathing. So the effort of breathing, this is what we look for when we're talking about effort of breathing, the respiratory rate. And this is higher in infancy, and it kind of decreases down with age. So it's not unusual, and you know during the winter months now, small babies coming into emergency departments with respiratory illnesses, it is not unusual to see these kids or these babies with respiratory rates of 88, 90 per minute, and you're just going, oh my god, and they're chugging away like a little choo-choo train. And it's really, really worrying, okay? Look at recession, okay, because we all love numbers. We love to know what the rate is. Respiratory rate is 90 per minute, you know, and his SATs are 92%, and it's great because it's quantifiable in our minds, isn't it? There's no disputing it. But you have to look at your other clinical indicators. So your recession, and this is really important, and I'll show you a video on it afterwards. Look at the recession, so the use of muscle, how hard they're working basically, okay? So subcostal recession, the muscle retraction under the ribs. Intercostal recession, the muscle retraction between the ribs. Sternal recession or suprasternal recession, otherwise a tracheal tug. So this sternal notch here really starts to pull in. So this is really key when you're looking at your child. The numbers are important, but look at this kind of recession and what's going on there. It's going to tell you how severe, you know, along the path this child is, whether they're in mild respiratory distress, moderate, severe, or they're going into respiratory failure. Okay? Inspiratory and expiratory noises. What am I talking about there? What kind of noises? Wheezes. And where's a wheeze indicative of the problem? Lower, isn't it? Right down in the lungs, okay? Somebody else called out something there? Stridor, okay, and where's the stridor indicative of the problem? Upper. So already you're starting to kind of, when you go in to assess your child and you know that, you know, they have a lot of subcostal recession, they have intercostal recession, they have a tracheal tug, and they have a stridor, okay? So already you're starting to think, well, it could be an upper airway. So it's starting to funnel down, and it's starting to, I suppose it's a process of elimination. You know, pediatrics is a process of elimination a lot of the time because they can't, like I said, they can't tell you what's wrong. Actually, one of the professors that retired from Town Street had a great kind of term he coined that the most similar of medicines to pediatrics was veterinary medicine. A sick child will lie down and sleep and they won't eat. A sick animal will lie down and sleep and they won't eat. And they can't tell you what the problem is, so you have to figure it out as you go along. Grunting is another noise that you might hear, and that's a sign of severe respiratory distress. Okay, and it's really, they're having trouble exhaling the air. Okay? Head bobbing, we spoke about, remember the muscles, not, you know, more prone to fatigue, so the muscles that support the neck and the head, they start to tire, and the infant's head starts to, with each breath, starts to bob up and down. Nasoflaring, again, the body just trying to maximise the amount of oxygen that they're taking in, and gasping's a really bad sign, okay? Severe hypoxia and gasping, and it's a preterminal sign again, so you need to be getting help ASAP, or thinking, you know, what we're going to manage this child's airway with. Exceptions to the rule, okay? So all that I've told you is very important, but there's always going to be the kids that aren't the typical picture, okay? And in particular, the child that is exhausted is not a typical picture, okay? So if you go in, if you're called to home and there's a very ill child, or mum says, you know, he's had a lot of coughing, he's had really a lot of trouble breathing, and when you go in, you think, you know, his respiratory rate isn't that bad, like, and you know, he doesn't look like he's that distressed, and I can't see all that recession or that tracheal tug. That's because he's deteriorating. So make sure you get a gut history. What was he like 2 hours ago? Is this what he's been like? Is he starting to tire? Because if he's starting to get exhausted, okay, all those compensatory mechanisms we spoke about are all starting. So the child that was tachypnic and breathing at 90 per minute will then be 70 per minute, 56, 42. Before you know it, you're down 20, 18, 12, and it'll happen so fast, you know, that it's frightening. They will deteriorate so fast. So in the exhausted child, so think of the bigger picture of the trend. What were they like 2 hours ago? Or were they like an hour ago? Just because things are falling into normal parameters doesn't mean the child's okay? Because in another 10 minutes he could be out the other side, all right? So look for the bigger trend things. Decreased respiratory drive, so things like toxins, so alcohol on board or anything like that, or opiates and things like that, okay? The drive, the respiratory drive, the central kind of breathing mechanisms are depressed. So you won't see that tracheal tug and that kind of increased effort of breathing. And neuromuscular disease. So children with these long-term, you know, illnesses, severe cerebral palsy, Duchenne's muscular dystrophy, those kinds of things, you won't see that increased effort of breathing for those kids. And the efficacy of breathing, okay? So chest expansion. So look at their chest, look at the volume they seem to be inspired when they're breathing. Does it look like they are breathing well? Is the chest symmetrical? Are we getting symmetrical chest rise on each side? Does it look normal? Auscultate the chest. So I'm not sure how comfortable people are listening to chest. Hands up, who would be very happy to walk on a stethoscope and listen to chests and kids? Yeah. So, and you know, but do you know what? And same with nurses. Sometimes we're not willing to do that. Okay. Whack on a stethoscope. Okay. You don't have to have the perfect terminology or the medical terminology. Something will make sense to you. Okay. I can hear a wheeze both sides. Actually, when I was standing there talking to him, I couldn't hear that wheeze. But I put on my stethoscope. It's really strong and it's on both sides. That's a lot of information you already have. I'm not sure if that noise, if it's a wheeze or a stridor. I'm really not sure. Move the stethoscope up. If it's a stridor, it will get louder. If you move it, as you move it up. If it's a wheeze, it will get louder if you move it down. Right? So, you know, it's good information to have as well. Don't be afraid to do it. And SATS monitoring. So like I spoke about earlier, we love the numbers, and SATS monitoring is very important as well. But just remember, it's measuring the overall kind of saturated oxygen within the blood. It's not measuring kind of the tissue delivery, okay, so the tissues and the organs are getting that. So it's all in conjunction. It's not one piece alone. It's not one number. It's not one clinical indicator. It's the overall picture. The effects of breathing inadequacy. So the heart rate. So what happens, this kid who's chugging away at 90 rests per minute, what's his heart rate going to be like? So he's going to be really tachycardic. So you're looking at him and you're going, oh my God, he's breathing so fast, his heart is pounding in his chest, we're really, really worried, okay? And again, the heart is beating faster, the breathing faster, and the heart is beating faster to carry all the oxygen around the body, okay? So the compensatory stages as well, once the breathing starts to deteriorate and they start going into respiratory failure, the heart is going to follow, okay? So they're going to be tachycardic, child's going to, you know, breathe slower, apneic pause, respiratory arrest, bradycardia, and if you don't intervene, asystole, okay? So it's a different pathway into cardiac arrest, it's a respiratory pathway in. Skin colour, so hypoxic child, they'll have vasoconstricted, so they'll be pale, alright? If they're blue, cyanotic, again, extremely worrying, imminent arrest on your hands. Mental status, so the hypoxic child, again, they will be agitated, they will be confused, they'll be combative, they won't keep an oxygen mask on, you be saying, just please keep it on, trying to help you, and they'll be whacking it off, and you'll be thinking, oh, what am I going to do, you know, because it's difficult to reason with them. So, what I've mentioned there, I'm just going to show you a quick video, okay? So, look for the intercostal recession, look for the subcostal recession, listen to the noises he's making, and hopefully this works. Sound. So you can look at them breathing away there. Yeah.
Assisted ventilation is likely to be needed, either by self-inflating bag and mask or by intubation and positive pressure ventilation. Vascular access is urgently required. If this is not possible, an intraosseous line should be inserted aseptically under local anaesthetic.
Okay, so did you spot what I was talking about? Between the ribs, that recession, below the ribs, and that suprasternal recession as well, unfortunately, and kind of IT issue.
This baby has severe respiratory distress with grunting and gasping. He is severely anemic, has gross hepatosplenomegaly and generalized edema. This is a pre-terminal situation, and urgently he requires 100% oxygen by face mask with reservoir. Assisted ventilation is likely to be needed, either by self-inflating bag and mask or by intubation and positive pressure ventilation. Vascular access is urgently required, and if this is not possible, an intraosseous line should be inserted aseptically under local anaesthetic.
Okay, so sick kid, isn't he? And some of these videos, they're quite hard to watch because you're looking at him, he's so sick, and somebody's standing there with a camera filming him. But it's a good indication of what we're talking about, okay? So what we're going to look at, our clinical cases that we're going to discuss are going to be upper airway obstructions and lower airway obstructions, okay? We're going to do case by case, so we're going to have about 4 of them. And again, I want you to get as involved as possible. So we're going to say you are called to this little baby, alright? He's in his house, so ignore all the monitors on him, ignore the BP cuff, ignore the oxygen he has beside him, and ignore what is in his nose. You don't know why it's there. And when you arrive, Mum says, look, he's 6 months, he's just not well, he's really having trouble breathing, and he's had a bit of a temperature and a bit of a runny nose for 2 days, okay? And as you approach him, this is what's going to assess them. What format are we going to use? Our ABC, isn't it? Okay, So airway, what do you think of his airway? Is it patent? Non-patent. So he's breathing, okay? Excellent, okay, so is it maintainable? Well, not 100% sure here. What very simple things can we do for him at this stage?
Lying down. Lying flat and open.
Yeah, get him comfortable, okay? Open the airway, so a little jaw thrust on him might help him as well, okay? And any airway that you're worried about? 100%, yeah, 100% option, whack it up to 15 leaves. You can always titrate it down. You can any doubt in a non-rebreather one, okay? And just put that on him straight away, okay? Breathing. Tell me about the effort to breathe in, that kind of, the effort to the efficacy and effect. Okay, so what do you want to know? And I'll tell you basically.
His rate.
So his rate, okay, his rate is 70. What noises? What noises are you making? Grunting, okay. Anything else? Wheezing, okay. Anyone else? Coughing, okay. Any other information you'd like to know? Colour, he's kind of pale, isn't he? Yeah, he's a bit pale.
How long? How long this breathing happens?
How long he's been like that, is it? Couple of hours, Mum says. He just had a bit of a cough this morning. He's just really. What about that recession? What kind of recession has he got? Sternal, hasn't he? And it's really dipping, isn't it? It's quite severe. Okay. The numbers. That's okay. Let's see what's wrong with him. So he has a stridor. All right, and this is really important. That stridor is like this whistling noise. So I'm going to attempt. I'm really good at the pals. I'm really good at it. So it is okay. And once you hear it, once you know what that is, you will know. Again, you will hear them around the corner. You'll say, or this, you know, this child, he's got a stridor around there. Okay. So immediately we know if he's a stridor. Where's the problem?
Upper airway.
Upper airway. Okay. He's got a barking cough. Okay. He's got SATs at 90%. He's got sternal recession and his respiratory is 70. Has he got a breathing problem? He does, doesn't he? Is he mild, moderate, severe? Severe. Quite severe, isn't he? Okay. Circulation. What would you like to know about his circulation? Okay. Okay, so let's say, so his heart rate is 160. Normal? Abnormal? It's a bit high, isn't it? Okay, but he's probably just trying to, again, he's breathing fast, so he's trying to get all that oxygen, right? His cup refill is 2. Okay, yeah. BP is 84 and 60. Yeah, blood pressure repeats is a hard one to remember, isn't it? 70 plus age by 2 is a good indicator of the minimum acceptable level for systolic blood pressure. Okay. Disability. So he's restless, isn't he? He's not having a good day at all. And exposure. He's got a temperature of 38.9. It's no rash, sorry, and he's pale. Would anybody like to hazard a guess as to what's wrong with this baby? Group. Anyone else? Epiglottitis. Anybody else? Okay. So let's see. Absolutely. Okay. So really good. Really good suggestions there. Yeah. Again, upper massage, isn't it? The larynx upwards. Okay. So this kitty is a croup. Or to give it a proper name, laryngotracheobronchitis. All right. And this is, you know, one of the bread and butters of pediatric BD is the croup coming in. Okay. So remember that sound that we listen to. Okay. It's different from a wheeze. It's higher pitched, and it's when they breathe in. Okay. Croup we see a lot in the smaller kids, so from 3 months up to, or 6 months up to about 3 years, but we'd see them up, the odd one up until they're about 5 as well. Usually has a barking cough, so they will sound like they have swallowed a seal. Okay, they will have this cough that you're just going, as you swallow it like a squeaky toy or something isn't right. Okay, and again, once you hear it, you'll always remember it. Okay, they'll be hoarse, or they'll have a hoarse stridor, and they usually have fever kind of for about 1 to 3 days beforehand. And smaller sized ET tube. So again, you know, it's not common, but always have it in the back of your mind. Could it be an epicarditis? So our second clinical presentation. Okay, you're called to the house. This is a 6-year-old with a great birthday party in full swing. All of a sudden, he vomited, started saying he didn't feel well, and started coughing. Okay? You come in, he's looking as miserable as that. So airway. So he's crying, he's saying, I just feel well, where's my mom? She was supposed to collect me and she just dropped me off and left me. He's breathing, so his respirator is 44, he's coughing, he's got a stridor and a wheeze, and his stats are 93%. What would you like to do at this stage? Yeah, exactly. Right, give him some oxygen. So he has a breathing problem, hasn't he? Okay, circulation, his heart rate is 150, he's pale, and he's a cap refill of 5. He vomited, started coughing, saying he felt just really, really unwell, he had a pain stomach, felt terrible. Exactly, and hopefully he'll be able to tell us, but at the moment he's just crying, and this is the thing with peds, you want the straight answer, you want the history, and they're not going to give it to you, so you're really going to have to...
Gain colour, any sign of a rash?
We look now, so disability, he's chatting to you, again, not great, but exposure, so when he exposes the chest, he has this kind of urticaria rash, it's like raised hives, okay, and he has this on his abdomen, his arms, and he has no temperature. Would anyone like to hazard a guess? There he goes, okay? So again, this isn't kind of a respiratory infection, but it's just, you know, your upper airway, okay? So it's a multi-system reaction to an allergen. And when you ingest or you're stung or, you know, an allergen enters your body, you will produce a lot of histamine, and histamine causes mucosal swelling. So you're thinking of the lining of the airway starting to swell up a lot. It is a life-threatening emergency, okay? And it can, again, it's multi-system, so it is the respiratory system, circulatory system, gastrointestinal, may have vomiting, may have diarrhea, they literally just become so unwell so quickly. And they may also have just mucosis, so rashes and those kind of hives. And again, we were talking about, is it upper airway, is it lower airway? This can be both, okay? And again, just to look what you're talking about with that kind of swelling, all right, or the areoedema, so you can see on the right hand side, so both cords are clear, and this one is extremely swollen, all right? So pre-hospital, first line of treatment.
Well, it depends on the severity, start from the, you know.
So that's really important.
Yeah,
really important. So when is an allergic reaction, or when is it an anaphylactic reaction?
When the vascular is compromised.
So when it's multi-system, so that's sudden kind of difficulty breathing, okay? So they may have the swelling, they'll have puffy eyes, they may have the big swollenness and the hives, okay? You know, and they might become very flushed. Okay, for those kind of kids, you can think is you know, an allergic reaction, maybe you could give him antihistamine, an oral antihistamine or something like that. When it's an anaphylactic reaction, they go into shock. So it's anaphylactic shock, and it's multi-system. So he is going into severe respiratory stress, he could go into respiratory failure, and he's in circulatory shock, he's tachycardic, he's a really delayed cap refill, he's a poor pulse volume. All right? So we're going to say I think he's multi-system. Are you happy with he's multi-system? Okay. What are you going to do for him? So, adrenaline. Okay, obviously I am adrenaline. And do you guys have the pens or?
Mix about.
Yeah, so the injection pens, the auto injectors, and they're great. Okay. No? You draw it up. Okay, perfect. Yeah. IV fluids, 20 mL per kilo, because that circulating volume around his vascular system, where is it gone? Okay, but when they're in anaphylaxis, I suppose they go into what we call distributive shock, so the fluid in the circulating volume, it's in the wrong compartment, so we need to replace the circulating volume. Because if we don't have an adequate circulating volume, the heart can't pump that. It's going to give up after a while. So IV fluids, IV hydrocortisone, okay, not before your adrenaline, okay, because how long is that going to take to work? It's going to take a while, okay, so, and you need results now. And maybe some nebulized salvation as well. We're going to do much the same as well, okay, so we're given 0.1 ml per kilo of the 1 in 1,000 vials again. And the thing I really like about adrenaline is kind of the rule for either it's cardiac arrest or nebulized adrenaline or IM adrenaline, you're always around the 5-minute mark, so it's a nice kind of way to remember it. Okay? IV fluids, we're going to give them too, and we may have to repeat those boluses, okay, until we're happy that, you know, his blood pressure is normal, his heart rate is settled, and his cap refill has improved. So for every intervention, we may go back and check. We're going to give him IV hydrocortisone too. We might give him nebulized adrenaline, okay, for the stridor, but again, our IM adrenaline is our go-to, okay, that's where we're going first. So we're not replacing the IM adrenaline with anything, basically. And we may also give him some nebulized salbutamol if he has a wheeze, and some IV antihistamines. So that's kind of what we've covered for upper, okay, so croup, epiglottitis, anaphylaxis, foreign body, again, always needs to be considered, okay, I'm not going to go into it because we want to focus more on the illnesses. Really? Okay. Right, second child, oh God. Second child, okay, he's an 8-year-old boy, you're called, he's had a cough for 2 days and increased work of breathing overnight. When you get to him, he's talking, he's happy to see you, but he's really breathless, he's having difficulty finishing his sentences. Patent, very maintainable. If he's having difficulty finishing the sentences, you know, you're thinking, is it maintainable? I'm a little bit worried about it. Okay, so immediately again, you're oxygen. It's going to be so repetitive with things. Breathing, so his respiratory rate is 45, he's got a wheeze, his SATs are 88 to 90%, and he's got substernal recession and he's short of breath. So we have a problem there, haven't we? So immediately again, we want to have our oxygen on, and we're kind of thinking, okay, with the wheeze and those kind of things. Circulation, so his heart rate's 130. Cap refill's less than 2 and his BP is 90 and 60. You happy enough? Yeah? Disability, he's agitated. Okay? It's not just because he doesn't want to go to hospital, he's just not making sense for you. And exposure, so he's no temperature and he's no rash. Okay? Asthma picture? You're happy it's an asthma picture? Yeah, perfect. Okay. And asthma again, so it can be difficult to assess the severity in asthma. And this is what again what I kind of keep going back to is, you know, the SATs are important and the respiratory is important, but look at the effort of breathing again. So listen to the chest. Is it a bilateral wheeze? You know, is it audible that I can hear it standing here, or do I have to put on the stethoscope to listen that bit closer? And have they got increased effort of breathing? And some of these kids, I suppose, again, we kind of look at the historical features of how they have been in previous admissions. So if they've had previous ICU admissions, it's a real key indicator that they're going to be really, really severe. And you know, we've had these kids that you'd see their name as a trial screen, and you know, because you were there with them in recess 2 weeks ago, and everything had to be given to them, and they still ended up in ICU, and you end up in ICU every time they come in. So it can be really severe. So we're going to fly through this. So assess their airway, oxygen. Obviously, if they're mild and have the inhaler, you know, that's mom what you usually take. Give them whatever they usually take, and then for your moderate, moving on to salbutamol, and severe, again, continuous nebs, and IV hydrocortisone. I noticed from looking at your CPGs as well, your management is slightly different for the pediatric kids, so you don't give the IV bronchodilators intravenously, but you give them in adults, don't you? Yeah. Over 15 years? Do you give IV max sulfate now?
Oh, we do, yes.
Yeah.
Specific.
So, obviously, and under your 15 years then, so that's kind of a challenge in itself as well, isn't it? So we're going to manage them much the same as you do as well, okay? And we're going to move on to the IV bronchodilators again. So we have salbutamol, max sulfate, or aminophylline as well. And just another quick video, and I will be finished.
This boy has arrived with an acute severe exacerbation of asthma. He is receiving a continuous salbutamol nebulizer driven by high-flow oxygen. He has secure venous access and has received intravenous hydrocortisone and aminophylline. ECG and oxygen saturation monitoring is applied. He is drowsy, fatigued, and there is evidence of poor air entry. He is sat upright to aid diaphragmatic function.
Okay.
Best done in Istanbul, I've heard of it.
It's very good. Moving on to the last baby of the night. Okay, so a little 6-month-old that you're called to with difficulty breathing. Okay, so this, you know, this baby, we would have seen a lot of them in a couple of weeks' time until next April probably. So his airway, so his patent is a lot of secretions. Okay, so again, a bit of gentle suction, again, simplicity, alright? Breathing. His respiratory rate is 50, he's got subcostal recession, he's got nasal flare, and he had a bit of head bobbing as well actually, didn't he, at the end of it when he was had into mum. He's got an audible wheeze that you don't need to stethoscope to listen to, and he's got SATs of 93%. Circulation. heart rate's 140, his cap refill is 2, and his BP is 86 on 60. You happy enough? Yeah. Disability, it's kind of lethargic and exposure. He's afebrile and he's no rash. Would anybody like to hazard a guess?
Bronchiolitis.
There we go. Yeah. Okay, so that's really, really good. So this is, again, so it's the wheezy baby, alright, that's not asthmatic because he's under 1 year of age, so he hasn't got asthma when he's wheezy, okay? A bronchiolitis, again, bread and butter of pediatric ED. So most common serious respiratory infection, one of the most common ones in childhood, and it's inflammation of the bronchioles, so it's down right down in the lower area. So winter epidemic lasting again from October till end of March or going into April, and seen under kids of 1 year of age. So think of all the secretions that baby had, and he's an obligatory nasal breather. Think of the challenge that is for him, okay? Caused by RSV, in most cases, and other pathogens are adenovirus and parvovirus, okay, but the big one is RSV. And you know, children with kind of complex underlying disorders or premature babies will be given the vaccine. I'll just show you another quick one. We're not going to discuss them.
Severe respiratory distress with sternal, intercostal and subcostal recession. There is head bobbing and a seesaw movement of the abdomen and chest.
Let's get another really, really sick baby going into respiratory failure. Bronchiolitis again, so coryza, so the runny nose, runny eyes, that harsh cough, increasing breathlessness and a wheeze and poor feet, and the poor feet again really key because they've only got their little nostrils to breathe through. Then you're trying to bottle feed them, they're trying to suck the bottle, they're trying to breathe at the same time. It's a big, big challenge and they tire. So a lot of them come in quite dehydrated as well. So ask about, you know, the feeding history with them. And our treatment, so we're going to support the airway breathing and circulation, and we don't do a huge amount with these babies either, okay? We want to give him a neb, don't we? Because we're interventionists and we want to make him better. Nebulizers, you know, salbutamol nebulizers are not going to do anything for this child. He may be wheezy, and you get really, really obviously wheezy. It's not going to do anything for him, okay? Same with the budesonide neb or something like that. Of course, corticosteroids not going to do anything for him either. And there's no evidence supporting the use of bronchodilators or steroids in the treatment of bronchiolitis. It's supportive measures. Supportive measures mean oxygen, okay? So what we'll do is put them on high flow oxygen through one of the Trilogy machines, and it basically puts in...
Attention please, this is a security announcement. The college will be closing in 10 minutes. Please.
But that high flow oxygen, the actual volume of the bone, it splits the airway, it kind of keeps it open, and it's humidified and it's warm. What else we do is we would pop down an NG tube and we would deliver their feeds through a pump, okay, so nice and slowly to keep them hydrated, okay? There is kind of the use of hypertonic salines, or saline nets, okay? It's fairly new kind of treatment, not all areas are doing it, and there's nothing kind of set in stone as to how beneficial it is. And the National Institute for Clinical Excellence don't recommend bronchodilators, corticosteroids, saline, or adrenaline nets for these kids. So that was our lower area obstruction. So we do a couple of things different, don't we? I think that we've kind of discussed, we do a couple of things different. So our croup, you know, our bronchiolitis, anaphylaxis not so much, okay? But just to kind of touch on a couple of other things, maybe our weight charts can be slightly different, and our trauma guidelines are slightly different because we're not using colours anymore. Are you guys using them? Yeah, so we're not doing that. So, you know, there can be kind of differences in treatment, okay? And what can that lead to? So what happens when you go to the emergency department with this child with a collar on, or, you know, these kind of things? What kind of, sometimes do you, are there conversations that are had that might be too you know, pleasant, okay? So what we're doing differently, it causes confusion. It can sometimes cause a blame culture between both kind of agencies as well, okay? Division, which I really don't like, because I don't want it to be us and them. Do you know what I mean? Again, it's the same patient, and we should all be kind of a little bit more collaborative, I think. And uncertainty. What are they going to be next time I go in there with kids with this? You know, this is what my guidelines tell me to do. You know. So pediatric education. So there are specific PEDS courses. PALS, so pediatric life, advanced life support, pre-hospital PLS, and the PEP courses. Okay. And like any training, it's very beneficial when you do it initially. But if you're not using the skills every day, the knowledge and the skills can kind of go back to normal, okay? You guys with pediatric training, this was a study done in Oregon in 2011, and the guy did a lot of focus groups with pre-hospital workers, and he found that access and availability of courses was poor, the content and the quality was very much geared towards in-hospital and then kind of adapted for pre-hospital. And the funding for further education wasn't available. So is that something like you can identify with, that if you want, you know, really interesting piece and I'd like to pursue it, that maybe it's not? So how do we overcome that? So I think joint simulation training will be a really, really good initiative, okay, between paediatrics and so the peds emergency departments and pre-hospital workers. And simulation training, like it's just recognised as being a really, really good tool. It gets you to practice your skills in a safe environment. And also structured meetings between the agencies, because a lot is said in passing, but does anyone ever actually sit down and really discuss it? And that's me, sorry for taking so long.
One of the feedbacks we got from our survey, so thanks to everybody who completed the survey on behalf of myself and Gráinne as well, was that we need to have a paediatric night. And that's what's going to be December. It's going to be a fully paediatric night. So before we go, I want to say thanks to Claire. Your sign-in sheet, just get your Eventbrite sheet at the top there, and just make sure you sign in before you go. And while you're doing that, Claire, would end-to-end CO2 be beneficial for paediatric assessment?
I mean, your initial assessment, like I was saying, just keep it basic to start with. I again went over it before.
Yep.
Keep it basic. Start with the basic things and see if that's beneficial.
So start with the basics and then see if that's beneficial. Okay, so listen, thanks very much to all the speakers. Thank you all for coming in tonight. Okay, it's great to see you all. Safe home wherever you may go, and hopefully we'll see you all again in December. Okay.